All right. What's up, everybody? How you doing out there? Welcome back to the show. This is last week's fight. My name is Thinker St. James, and tonight we are going over each and every fight from the upcoming UFC fight night, Imavov versus Borralho, to give our predictions. Also going over Dana White's Contender Series Week 3 that happened this previous week. To do all of that with me, as always, the man, the myth, the legend, the Ohio player, and my good friend and co-host, Chase Parton. How are you, sir?
I'm awesome. We had a lot of things going on this weekend, not necessarily UFC fights, but we had a lot of other promotion things, so it was definitely fun to keep up. And I'm ready to talk about a lot of different things.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we both were doing our things over the weekend. Long night of streaming for me on Saturday and then into Sunday as well. Just to touch on a couple of those, I mean, did you hear about this big mess out there in Montenegro with BKFC?
No, I don't know what you guys are talking about because I got on Amazon, during the day and BKFC was right there. I didn't click on it or anything, but it said it right on the front page, like BKFC, watch now. And you guys were talking about that it just wasn't on streaming services. And I'm like, what are you talking about? Like, you guys are clearly on something because I'm looking right at it. And you guys were adamant that something went down. So I would love to be enlightened on why I could not watch BKFC if I chose to that day.
Yeah, I mean, it might have been a previous event that you were seeing because I know that sometimes on Amazon they'll have previous events that you can watch on demand there. But no, what happened with BKFC is that I was going to do a watch along. It was the Budva card out in Montenegro, and they had it all set up to go. And then right when it was supposed to start, nothing happened. And I was like, well, I'm here. What's going on? Uh, Broadcast did not start. We get the word on their Twitter account that the broadcast had been delayed, but the event was still going on. Turns out that there was a massive weather incident out there, some kind of big storm of some sort, a lot of rain, a lot of wind, and the broadcast didn't go off. The first portion of the event happened up until co-main. So the co-main and the main event never took place. The rest of the event did take place. No broadcast took place. And then from what I was seeing, I didn't actually have time to read the article, but shout out to Didgeridoo Dave, just showed up in the chat, was doing a little bit of investigative research. And apparently there was some damage to the structure of everything. So like I guess that there was some scaffolding that might have come down. It was apparently a pretty big mess out there in Montenegro for BKFC. So I guess on the one hand, good that they did not broadcast that, so there was no, wide scale broadcasted incident. But on the other hand, still rather dangerous for the fighters, the attendees, the crew. I mean, it sounded like it was not a great situation out there, and no watch along to be had. So bit of an incident as far as bare knuckle goes over the weekend.
Well, that is unfortunate, but at least there was, and I'm not saying it in a way that there was like that, but there was also Misfits that was happening that day, so there was something to watch other than BKFC. So how did that go?
It was funny and interesting and okay. I mean, it was not as terrible as I was expecting. It was goofy in parts. It's a lot of influencers doing influencer boxing. So, you throw technicality out the window for some of the undercard stuff. Obviously, a few MMA fighters were on the card: Tony Ferguson, Luke Rockhold, and Till. Darren Till was the main event. Luke Rockhold versus Darren Till. So when the MMA fighters were fighting, it was actually like watching fighting. But there were a couple of entertaining moments other than that. And the main event was actually fairly decent, I have to say. As far as boxing goes, Darren Till did his thing.
Yeah, no, I actually I saw the knockout. I didn't watch that one live, but I did have a fun time watching the replays of Rockhold getting folded over. That was pretty funny. But I also would like to mention that the weekend had Dirty Boxing. If you didn't catch that, it was fun. That's what I did the other night that was happening. I think that was on Friday. I
Yes,
could be
Friday
wrong.
night.
Yeah, Friday night is when we had Dirty Boxing, and honestly, guys, boxing. I'm just not a fan of it. I don't know. It really is. You still get the like, okay, so they make different promotions. Misfits is obviously like a straight up boxing thing, but like Dirty Boxing is a new thing that they made. They're like, okay, boxing is too much of whatever. So we're gonna, the real ones go here. But then you still get people clenching and still getting people holding, and like it's honestly just really annoying. And I think I don't know. I was watching and what you said about the Misfits, like when the UFC guys were on, it was fun and it actually looked like fighting. That's basically what was happening with the dirty boxing. Is like the UFC guys were the only reason that I was kind of interested, is just to see how they would adapt to a new situation. Because when you think of a mixed martial artist, they're the ones that can do it all. Like that's what their game is. It's like, they mix in everything. So putting them in different type of promotions where the rule sets are different, it's more interesting than just watching somebody who is training specifically just for that. I don't know. That's just the way that I'm looking at it.
Yeah, no, I agree. I'm in the same camp when it comes to boxing. It's just the pace is not it doesn't hold my interest the same way that MMA does. I appreciate the art form. I can definitely understand the appeal, but MMA gives you a lot more to latch onto and to be excited by as far as I'm concerned. So yeah, there's definitely a distinction there between the two. When it comes to the Misfits card, one thing to note, you said it was straight boxing. Actually, that is not correct on this one
Oh,
because they had their first ever MMA fight with Dylan Dennis and something Spencer, I believe was his name, who was 0-0. Spencer had no record, came in basically to gift Dylan Dennis a victory and a belt. So Dylan Dennis is now the MMA champion of Misfits boxing.
nice. Yeah, you're right. That did happen. And continued on, continuing. So
Yeah, it was very, very quick. Snatched the neck, got the guillotine off, in no time flat, basically. So that was interesting. The refereeing was absolutely atrocious on the Misfits boxing card. That's another thing to bring up. It was absolutely terrible. But it'll still allow Tony Ferguson to get a win over the Salt Poppy. So that was great. It was a little bit goofy to see Tony crying and praising Jesus on the mat. Yeah, he really was very, very happy to get this win over a dude who runs in place on TikTok. So
yeah.
shout out to him though. I mean, obviously he did win the fight and he was in desperate need of a win. So good on him for that, I guess. And that's really about it for Misfits Boxing, aside from the knockout in the main event.
And then I think the last thing that I'll touch on before we get into the UFC things is I did catch the one card on Friday. I did not catch our one car fights on Friday night. I'm still eager to catch one of those live where we get the undisclosed ages for the fighters, and that one's going to be awesome to keep up with soon. But one did have a lot of good fights, but there's just one specific thing that I want to bring up. So you had a matchup between Hamada from Morocco, and then you had a guy, Nadaka, something like that. My apologies, my boy from Japan, and he was butchering my boy Hamada. And this was like a big draw kind of guy. Like a lot of people from Japan were coming to watch this guy, and Hamada was getting his ass whooped for 3 rounds, and then in the third round took a dive. Like I don't know what he did. He tweaked his knee is what it looked like, and then he tapped, but then he got up complaining to the ref that he shouldn't have got the fight stopped, and then he went around the ring like, trying to ag the crowd on that, like, no, I that's BS. But like he just like kind of ruined this moment for our guy from Japan. Like he was literally having a stellar performance and he was going to get, probably a decision, or he was going to finish him. I mean, he did get a TKO, but like, there's no highlight from it because the dude just like fell over on his own, and like there was nothing that landed in that moment. It was just super super underwhelming. If you're going to look back at it, like actually watch the fight, but whatever.
Sure. Yeah, right on. And the other promotion you were talking about is not one though, right? Isn't that the Fairtax?
It is yeah, it's the Fairtex Extreme Fights. It's something. It takes place in the same arena, the Lupini Stadium is where they all take place here.
Gotcha. Okay, fair enough. So yeah, keep an eye on Chase's stream for some of those promotions from that side of the world.
Yeah,
And the only other thing I wanted to mention before we get into the next segment is I watched both nights of the Craig Jones Invitational, which was very very cool. I quite enjoyed it. It's fun. It's a great atmosphere that they create at the CJI, and I the first night was it wasn't as exciting, I would say. It was a lot of the guys, because they did it. The format was a little different this year, where they had like teams, and so it was team versus team. They were calling them team duels.
I
Uh,
like that idea, by the way. That's what the GFL is supposedly wanting to do. But yeah, I didn't mean to interrupt you. Go
No,
ahead.
sure. Yeah, no, that you're exactly right. Yeah, if they had had a format like that, I could see, based on how they did it in the CJI, how it could have worked. And I kind of liked that. I mean, there would have been differences because MMA versus BJJ, of course, but I got the team concept out of it, and I liked the way that CJI presented everything. I thought it was pretty cool. People, I think, were holding back a little bit in the first night because they had 2 nights to go, so they didn't want to like put out all of their 100% effort there. But because there was a lack of submissions on that first night, Craig Jones came out in the beginning of the second night and said, we're going to put a $50,000 bounty for submissions now. And that ended up increasing some of the submissions. Now in the finals, there were no submissions again, sadly. So the finals were a little bit underwhelming, but overall a really cool event. Craig Jones, he fought Chael Sonnen. It was supposed to be Gable Stevenson, but he had pulled out. So Craig Jones versus Chael Sonnen. That was fun, although very quick and ultimately extremely predictable. 2 buggy chokes. It was Craig Jones got him one time. They said, "Hey, let's run it back." No rules, so let's just do it again, kind of thing. And then a buggy choke again. So back to back buggy chokes. Chael went out 2 times.
I would like to actually have a question about the ethics of them running it back after a man's unconscious, but we'll get into that in just a second, because I would like to tell everybody that Craig Jones, one of the most masterful minds that you could see as of right now when it comes to promoting an event. Like, this dude knows how to do it better than the top dogs that you have underneath the UFC, of course. And even then, he does some things better than the UFC. He basically, and this is a stretch, but like, he cares as much as Dana, and he has like the personality to lead the charge that is like a Dana White. And that's what all these other guys are missing. Like, they don't have that head honcho. Like, Craig Jones comes in, and he is somebody that competes in it as well. So it's like, he does walk the walk, talk the talk kind of deal. And he knows how to have fun. He knows comedy, which is something that he brings to the event, rather than just it being fight promos after fight promos. Like, he's creating an atmosphere. And it, something that I am sure, for the longest time, he's a young guy, so it probably hadn't have been that long of a time, but he had to have been telling everybody for so long, I'm gonna do something that you guys have like, it's gonna be so crazy. I'm gonna shock the world with grappling. And I'm sure he was laughed at for a lot of times. People probably did not take him serious when he thought that submission grappling, or BJJ, whatever this technically is, that it could be like a top market thing, that people would actually come watch it, and free on YouTube, the way that he wants to have that method. Like, and he's marketing everything towards that as well. He's using that to the advantage of the marketing. Like, if I'm going to make it free on YouTube, you're going to watch certain stuff. Like, I don't know if you caught like a lot of the commercials during it, but like, they were BJJ centric. Like, they were literally only about BJJ. And I just think he's genuinely doing something that you don't see. He's controlling everything in the promotion. Like, it's all built in, and I love it.
Yeah, no, I agree. He is a great promoter, and like, because of what you're saying, like with the personality, it shows through in the event. And it was just a great time. It really, like, you like, it's almost osmosis. Like, you're like, I'm not like a huge BJJ guy. I don't know. I know about it through MMA. That's my extent with the sport. So being an outsider to it, like, I was drawn in just by it being sort of like a fun, light sort of party atmosphere. It was great. Like, that aspect of it was cool. Gabby Garcia, who he had a match against last year, was there, and she was a little bit tipsy. So that was,
She's great, by the
yes,
way.
yeah. It's just fun. It was just a really cool thing. And yeah, it got me through both nights of it, and I enjoyed it, and really, really good time.
I think there's a quote out there, real famous quote. It's not about what you say or what you do, it's about how you make people feel. And Craig Jones knows how to make people feel like they're having a good time watching his events.
Absolutely. And from that, I just real quick before we move on, did want to acknowledge that. So they had the teams, like I was saying, but they also had a mini bracket tournament for the ladies, because it was gendered this year. The ladies did it was not intersex competition. So the ladies had their own little mini tournament, and Helena Cravar is a name that I had heard in the past, but I was not familiar with her like specifically. I just had heard the name. I think she might have been involved in one of the UFC's invitationals at one point, perhaps, or the Fight Pass invitationals, I think. Either way, she ended up winning the women's tournament. She is 18 years old and is a phenom and just got signed to one championship. So keep an eye
Nice.
out. Yeah, I say keep an eye out for the Selena Cravar out there in one championship, because she came in and was looking phenomenal in everything that she was doing. And to be that talented at 18, she's going to have an insanely great future ahead of her. I was saying on the broadcast, I'm like, teach this girl how to strike. And, a lot of these girls are going to have problems.
Yeah, I was gonna say I'll be interested to see if I'll see her in MMA or if I see her just in the submission grappling aspect of one. But I'll definitely be on the lookout because I'm keeping up with a lot of different stuff now.
Absolutely. And I know we keep saying before, but one last thing just to acknowledge, and then we move on. Real American Freestyle had their first event also over the weekend, and I heard that it was pretty well attended. But the big
Who'd you hear
takeaway
that from? You tell me their names.
that's the controversy, right? Everybody's saying, oh, they only sold 200 tickets. From somebody who was at the event, said that it was 2/3 full in the arena and that it looked pretty well attended to that person. So I don't know.
Well, it could be 2/3 full if 200 tickets are sold. Yeah, I mean they were saying, "Come watch it, please, free as hell. You get just fill up the seats." I mean, I don't know. That's
I don't know
nuts.
either. I mean, and that I think that number is just that might be memes.
No,
That's
true. I would love to laugh and be a hater, but no, like if they did do good, that's cool. I mean, I genuinely don't think it's my cup of tea, but I could see the market of why people would want to compete in it or why people would want to watch it. Um, it just wouldn't be for me because I could say mean things, I guess, but just not for me. So
no, same. Yeah, and that's I wasn't planning on taking it in, and I did not.
yeah.
But the only takeaway from it was that Chael Sonnen was also on that broadcast. Apparently, got called out by Tito Ortiz, which is just why Tito Ortiz continuously doing dumb things for the sake of doing dumb things. But so you just shout out to Chael for doing that, and then immediately over in the CJI the next day doing this thing there.
Yeah, hell yeah. No, it was definitely an eventful weekend. People, listen, all the promotions know when the UFC does not have events.
So true. It's exactly it.
And that's how you should know, like, that's how good the UFC is at what they do. Like, they just take all the market away because people, when they see the events of the weekend, the first thing that they're going to see is the UFC. And when they see all these other ones, it's like, we'd rather just watch the UFC, even if it's the fight night. Like, even if it was this fight night right here, people would rather watch this than, all the other stuff. So they must be reaching out ahead of time. Craig Jones is on the phone like, Dana, you let me know when you are not having a card because we don't even find out that shit until like, a couple months or, beforehand. So whatever.
Sure. Yeah. Yeah. It's true. Everybody has to jam it all into the one day that there's not a fight night. It's
Or
kind of
two.
crazy.
Come on, we had 2-day events.
Sure. Well, I mean, but they could still do Fridays if they
Well,
wanted
true.
to, but whatever the case may be. Either way, we're here to talk about MMA. So you want to do a little of that?
I would like to shout out the chat first before
Sure.
we move into this. Oh,
Absolutely.
I'm gonna do it. Yeah, sorry. I would like to. I can't even scroll up, so I can only see Big Boars MMA. I can see Didgery Dave, of course. Hydra has been here, of course. And is that everybody? Yeah, that's everybody. Okay, just making
So
sure.
far, yeah,
Good deal.
appreciate all you guys. Thanks very much for being here. So yeah, we're gonna start off with the contender series. We had week 3 this past
Mhm.
week, and this was a very quick one, man.
Yeah, no, I did not stream this one, and specifically, I didn't feel it was necessary. After the first week, I was skeptical. I was like, I can't sit here and believe we're gonna have multiple weeks of nothing, right? And so I get Dad to watch this with me. I'm sitting here watching Contender Series live with Dad. I got to make sure he gets an opinion. I'm like, bring the good juju. We need good fights, and we unfortunately did not get many of great ones. And we'll start off with this first one. Go
Sure.
ahead and announce them. Yeah.
This is Dante Johnson versus Darian Abbey started the evening off here.
And so this fight right here, the only thing that I'll say is this is indicative of how the season has been going so far. Is we get one guy who's not even like this specific guy, not even competing in the right weight class on short notice, and he's going against this monster of a heavyweight. This dude's like 6'5", ginormous, coming off of, a knockout in the third round after a war. Like, it was all written in the stars for this dude to come out here and put on a decent performance. And then he walks out there and in the first exchange quits and puts his head in between his fucking knees and falls to the ground. And it's like, how do you let somebody who's not even a true heavyweight do that to you? But you've been in 3-round wars with heavyweights where you've won by knockout after. People were saying online, they're like, oh, you didn't hear him talking about how he got knocked down like 3 times in a fight and then came back. It was like, yeah, where the fuck was that? Like, where was that? Like, I didn't see any type of will or heart in this. Did he not want to go to the UFC? Like,
I mean, that seems to be, at least for a couple of these fights, the theme is that we just had a bunch. Like, it doesn't necessarily, like, you want knockouts, you want finishes on these on the Contender Series. We want to see finishes, period. But like, it doesn't. You also want there to be like some adversity coming back. Like that. Really, my overall note with a lot of these is just that we don't get any impression of how these fighters are going to be inside the organization off of these fights.
what I think the worst part is like, as a viewer who's like trying to track how I'm evolving with a mindset in this sport. When I first started watching the Contender Series, I get a gauge of like, okay, boom, we get finishes, we get dudes who are going to make an impression, they're going to try to do something. And then now when I'm watching it, I feel like I'm too wise to the game. It's like, oh, well, they're just giving them opponents that they're literally going to finish every single time. Like 10 times out of 10, they're going to punch them in the face once and they're going to fall over. Like, it's crazy to me that I've seen this so many times
Well, I mean,
already.
yeah, I guess the counter to that is that you still got to give a fair shake to the guys who are wanting to at least try to prove themselves. I mean, they have to be the ones actively seeking out getting into this Contender Series in the first place, right? I mean, they're on the regional circuit, they're trying to get into the promotion. So, it's like, if they have the record, you give them the shot. Maybe you want to believe that a Dante Johnson is just that much better than a Darian Abbey, but at the same time, I understand where you're coming from, where it's like, it would appear a mismatch if this is how the fight's going to go.
I mean, it's just unfortunate that I can't name them off the top of my head because they're so forgettable. But if you go back the last 3 weeks, and that's how quickly it's happened, last 3 weeks, you can name 4 people who have just outright quit in their fight. Like, it's just fucking ridiculous. Like, I don't know, bro.
I mean, maybe that's just the power that
Yeah,
Dante
I'm
Johnson holds in
as a
his
middle
hands.
as a middleweight coming. Yeah, I know. I'm sure he's that fucking good. I don't know, man. That's just unfortunate.
Well, either way, Johnson gets a very quick knockout here. I mean, a minute 4 seconds in, and it was over. So he, really did crumble him. And you can see, they show the heat maps. If you're just listening, we've got on ESPN, they show the heat maps of the body, and it's just red on the head of Abbey, and that's it.
Yeah. Yeah, telling me he landed 9 strikes before he got finished is a joke, to be honest. But whatever.
Yeah. So again, quick in, quick out on that one. Moving on to the next one. This was actually a decently competitive fight here. So this was like the one of the more standout fights. It's actually the only real standout fight of the evening, as far as I could tell.
Yeah.
Sorry. This is Christian Perez versus Manuel Sosa.
Yeah, this one I actually really, really liked because Christian Perez, this was Brandon Moreno's teammate, and he came in looking very, very good. And Souza, this dude, I'm gonna be real, might be on or has once been on PEDs because, and it actually, I think it showed through the fight with how much damage he was able to withstand. Like, this dude took a beating for the first, 2.5 rounds, 2 rounds fully, to be real. Christian Perez was having his way with him. The grappling was looking good. He was controlling him, landing a lot of good strikes, and even on the feet was looking good up until his cardio hit a wall right as the third round started, and he had nothing left to give. And unfortunately, that's just a learning process for Christian Perez. Like, that's not something that it happens or it doesn't. You train correctly and it happens. You can train incorrectly and you can just have a cardio, gas tank, whatever you want to say. But it happens. He'll learn from it, and I think he'll actually be somebody that's gonna be very profitable in the future. I mean, they were doubting him at plus 200, and they came in here and whooped on him for 2 rounds. I mean, genuinely good performance. But then Manuel Sosa, like I said, might be on something because this dude took so much damage, and he was able to just spurt out in third round, put a finish on him, put him on the mat. And he actually didn't put him on the mat. I mean, he kind of just eventually couldn't take any more punches and fell over kind of deal. I don't even think he fell over; it's kind of fell down, head between knees kind of deal. But Jesus, this one, I don't know, bro. Actually, now that I'm thinking about it, it might have even been the ref stepping in. I don't remember if I ever see him hit the mat. I'm trying to remember, but it was definitely a finish that you knew was coming. Manuel earned this one, and genuine specimen if he's not on anything like.
Fair. Yeah, no, I remember this one being a really competitive fight overall. It was clear that there was still some formative elements on both sides that needed to get ironed out a little bit. So I also thought that that Perez probably, to give him another shot. He's one of those ones that should be able to come back and have a better showing in a future date.
I don't even think you need it. Like some of these people, you say like, oh, he should get another shot, but like I don't think we should see him on Contender Series again. Like he literally was just whooping the guy who was beat. He's gonna
Yeah,
get
no,
the contract. So
right. I mean, you make a good point with that though too, because a lot of times, like if you, it almost like if you go to the Contender Series, you're kind of locked into the Contender Series sometimes. You know what I mean?
mhm.
Like until you actually pass through that gate, like you just if you go down that path, you are kind of stuck there. Because what we're going to talk about on this Paris card, there are a number of fighters that are coming in who are leapfrogging the Contender Series. Now, a couple of them are pretty accomplished outside of the organization, but we've seen decently accomplished people on the Contender Series as well. So it's an interesting thing with that. Like you with Perez, you're right. I mean, like there's nothing to say after a fight like that with a guy that is now in the organization. You would think that, yeah, I mean, if it was that competitive, maybe you should just let him, just go straight in. But again, it's the fact that he even set foot in the apex. It's like now you got to go through that step.
I mean, I know that he lost this fight, but like Christian Perez did everything but finish him. So like, do you really need to see him finish somebody who's gonna be obviously not on his skill level? Like even Salza, not necessarily on the skill level of Christian Perez. He was just able to negate the grappling and do nothing on the ground, and then get up and then have the longevity to be able to finish him late. Christian Perez, like all you could say is just like get on the treadmill more. Like that's not really like a get back in there, champ. It's just like, all right, you know what to do next time. Train more. Now you're ready for you're definitely ready for the next level. We just got to train better. We got to do we got to have better habits kind of deal.
Sure. And actually, now that we've talked it through a little bit, I do believe that Perez was one that Dana said that they'll call him up if there's like a drop out of short notice.
Mexico and the PI, buddy. I'm not telling you. I'm not telling you it for no reason. It is he loves it. He loves them. So
Yeah, exactly. So, there is I say all of what I just said, but there is potential that he might just step up and be
yeah.
in the organization. So good on both of these guys. This was actually, again, the standout fight of the evening here. So really impressive on both sides. Enjoyed it.
Heck yeah.
All right. Well, another quick one here. This is even quicker than the first one. This is Abdul Rahman Yakyaev versus Alik Lorenz. And this was just a one and done, basically. I mean, there a couple of shots they're saying it was a more, like it didn't feel like 16 shots, but they're saying 16. It felt more like he walked in, knocked him the hell out, and was just right on out of there again.
So you got the Turkish Chechnyan. So this is the second time that we have a Chechnyan come in where Dana is just all over what they're going to be able to do for him in the UFC. And to be fair, I mean, they're good and they do they do like the sport. They're ready to fight. They come in and look for finishes. I do respect that. Continue to do it in the UFC. I'm a big fan of it, but not all Chechnyans are fucking world beaters, guys. Like I don't know. It's not a regional thing. It's a put in the time and the work thing. So whoever shows me that they're doing that, I'm ready to see it.
Yeah.
So
And I believe I saw on Twitter that Yakyaev has been booked already. So I mean, this is another one where get a good win and they just shoot you right in. So I think I'm pretty sure that that's what I had seen. So now he did the easy part is out of the way. You got the entry level exam is taken care of. So let's see you go do it again in the organization. But I stress one more time here that when you see such a quick finish on the Contender Series, it does not give us the data that we need to make accurate assessments about how they're going to compete against the level of competition that they're going to be facing in the actual organization. So off of what we saw, cool. It's always nice to see a real quick, easy knockout, but what we're in for as far as Yakyaev goes in the UFC remains to be seen, in my opinion.
100%.
All right. And yet another one, Damon Wilson versus Mauricio Barbosa. Barbosa, I thought actually this was a little bit more. You got to see a little bit more out of this fight, and I remember being pretty impressed with Barbosa.
This one I'm super blanking on right now, but good deal. Victory by punches, round one finish. Good deal.
Yeah, I mean that's really what it was. But at least with this one, it went a little. It was another round one finish, like you said, but it went for 4 minutes and 14 seconds or so. So at least we got to see a little bit of movement out of Barbosa, and I thought he looked pretty good.
I do remember this one. This is the nomad. This is the guy who bought the RV so he could travel across the world and train and stuff like that. Damon Wilson is that guy. And then my dad was sitting there. It's like, this guy might be tough to put away. Not at all. Not at all. I
Not in the
I, I
slightest.
Yeah, no, it's pretty funny because I think it was last week. It was with the Chechenian, Sursakayev. He picked him. He was like, I think he's gonna win it. He's obviously a minus 1,500, and then he goes out there and kicks the dude in the stomach, and he yells and quits or whatever. And then my dad's like, I told you, man. I told you. And I'm like, okay, here we go. So this one was pretty funny because he was like, this guy's gonna be real tough to put away, and then he fucking quits like everybody else that we've seen so far. And he's like, this fucking show sucks right now. Like, why are these guys like fighting like this? So it's pretty funny.
Your dad sounds like he could be fitting right in with the rest of MMA Twitter.
Dude, I know. That's why we keep him on Facebook in the void.
There you go. But yeah, no. So, shout out to Barbosa. This was a good performance. Like I said, you got to see a little bit of some of his movement, some of his physicality to an extent, and he was putting the beating on this dude. So Wilson was able to weather the storm for a little bit longer than some of these other guys. So shout out to him for that. But yet another first round finish, and that's all she wrote.
Yeah.
And last one, again, same deal. I mean, really, we're going around in circles, but it is what it is. Trent Miller versus Ryan Gondra. I remember making the joke on the watch along that if Gondra had lost, it would have been like you're smoking the Gondra. But indeed, the Gondra smoked the Miller here.
Yeah, you never want to get smoked by the Gondra, but it is what happened here. And I don't remember this one particularly either because, like, at this point, it's like, why should you even care? It sucks because as the viewer, it's like they're portraying it as like, yeah, these are two evenly matched up guys. Like anybody could win right here. And that's obviously the case in fighting. Anybody can win. But these are 99% sure dogs right here. Like, and I'm watching and how do I care when the guy just walks in and just beats him up and he just cowers? Like, I don't know. It's just unfortunate. And I'm not saying that's necessarily what happened in this one if it's not, because I don't remember how this finished. But it's a common theme right now in contender series used to be the dogs. Like this used to be where I've been like, yo, you give me Angel Pacheco any day of the week against anybody, and I think he'll take a beating, but he might be able to pull it off at the end. Now I'm looking at any of these guys, and they all just quit so easily. And I don't know, man. It's just nuts.
I mean, saying that all of them are quitting, I think, is a little bit.
It's not all of them, of
Right, I
course,
mean,
but out of the 5 fights, we've had at least 1 or 2 each week. Like that's a decent percent. Like,
Yeah. I guess that the whole thing is that like there are only so many elite fighters in the world. Even if not all of these guys are elite, they could still be that cut above the average fighter. And even the average fighter wants to get into the UFC. So you got to give them the opportunity to either make or break themselves, and just a lot of these guys are breaking themselves, so it is what it is. Again, I my biggest thing is not that. My biggest thing is the lack of data, because once you bring them into the roster and they are now active fighters that you're going to have to see going up against more seasoned fighters that have already been through the rigors of this sport, you're going to find out that a lot of these guys, you can get it a nice, easy win, because it's essentially what the Contender Series is to me is just an extension of the regional circuit. You know what I mean? All you're doing is taking the regionals and you're putting it on the UFC stage. And, so it's like, yeah, they can continue to get those lower level wins, but now you've taken that element out of it. They're in the organization proper. What can they do there is going to be the big question for a lot of these guys. And we've been seeing some good ones lately, your Malcolm Wellmakers and, your Elijah Smiths, like a couple of these guys have been coming in and really doing some good work. So there's nothing to say that these guys couldn't be that as well, but we don't get the information from these fights. And that's why it's a little unfortunate to me.
Yeah, I think that's a good actually thing to point out is these are just the top guys of the regionals. Like these, just like in the first week with Georgie Mangos, I think that George Mangos,
Georgie
you know,
Mangos, yes.
that was the top Australian guy versus the top, whatever the other fucking bum guy was, Arkansas fucking wrestler, Brazilian. I don't know what he was, but either way, these are the top of the region guys. And what the only thing that you should take away is just understanding that some of these regions just might not have a top fighter coming out of their place. Like some of these guys just really suck. Like, and it's promotions like that you could look at. Like, sometimes they'll come out and be like, "Oh, LFA, like this guy might be really good. He's from the or Cage Warriors." Like, but then some of them, you look at this Trent Miller dude, wherever he came from, it's like, was there not a middleweight better? Like, I don't know, but not necessarily. I'm just picking him out of a lot
I
here,
get it.
not
Yeah, I
necessarily, but
gotcha. Sure.
so.
Well, and I mean, we're going to talk about that on the Paris card coming up here when we do our predictions too, because there's a bunch of guys coming in off of other promotions that are rather accomplished in those promotions. And, it's the question still remains, what do they do when they're in the UFC, when you are now
Yeah,
in the most elite promotion? So, overall, this was 5 fights. This was 5 contracts. So, congratulations to all of these guys that won their fights and made it into the organization off of this. Now you're in the big show. We'll see what they can do against the real deal.
I think I think we're being if I had a last note for the contract thing about Dana, after the first week, yeah, you got to be a little upset that there wasn't a lot of things going on. Second week, okay, then you give out a bunch of contracts for people who deserve it or whatever, and then this week, 5 contracts again. Like, not every. I don't think everybody does. Like he probably should have crunched the numbers a little more on this one. I think, but
Yeah, well, that gets into an interesting territory though, because it's like at that, like if the whole idea is to go in there and show dominance and annihilate your opponent, and put on a performance that's worthy of a contract, and you knock the guy out, what are you supposed to say to that? You know what I mean? Like we got a bunch of this was all knockouts on this card.
true, true.
So,
I hear you.
yeah,
So.
I know because I'm with you though because I like DC is always the person that is very tough on these fighters on the Contender Series, and I'm more in the DC camp myself. Like I love the Contender Series for the spectacle of it. I want to be wowed. I want to have that like feeling of like the amazement because I always specifically go into the Contender Series not knowing about these fighters. I don't do any research. I watch it purely as a fan, without any preconceived notions about any of these guys. And then this is your they say, oh, it's the world's toughest job interview. So I'm also part of that equation. You're presenting yourself to the audience and by extension to me. So like I want to be wowed by the performances as well because I understand where you're coming from. It's like, yeah, the guy just went in there and just knocked him out and there was nothing, no further effort shown, like so it is hard to say, but at the same time that's what you're supposed to do and he did it. So what are
Yeah,
you gonna
they
do,
are.
right?
Yeah, they are. They are passing the criteria.
Right.
Dana White is impressed that like, wow, someone got knocked out. That was exciting. So yeah, but like, if the task was to prove you're UFC worthy, then I think some of these guys would fall short. But the task is, put on exciting performance. That's what they're tasked to do, and they are doing that. So I'll give them that. So.
Yeah, well, and I mean, and UFC worthy, like now you have to go out and replicate that in the UFC. So they got through the initial phase of everything. I guess it makes sense.
Yeah, I hear you.
So, all right, well, I mean, real quick, in and out on that one, but that was Dana White's Contender Series Season 9, Week 3. Of course, we will be back for Week 4 tomorrow. This is
Tomorrow.
Yeah, tomorrow night the Contender Series continues, and I will be on. Are you going to be able to do a watch along of that one?
I will be doing a watch along of that one. I'm at least 80% sure. It's a decent time watching it with Dad, but I'm okay with it. I also wanted to mention, shout out to my boy Elite in the Discord. He wanted me to mention that the McMillan guy, Sean O'Malley's friend that is competing tomorrow, he's going to get the first round sub. So before we go into anything else, I just wanted to say that for you guys. Make
All
sure you get
right.
that down.
There you go. Lock it in. I will definitely be on for it. So if if Chase is on, we watch with him. You watch with me. Watch with either of us. We will be around.
Heck yeah.
All right. Well, all of that out of the way, let's get into the card coming up this weekend. This is UFC Fight Night Imavov versus Borralho. This is at the Accor Arena in Paris, France. The UFC is going back to France once again. And of course, we have our feelings about this thing. So we're just going to do our predictions here. And I guess we can get started with the first fight of the evening. Actually, even before we get into the first fight, I did want to mention, and I will bring this up. This just happened a few minutes ago, just before the stream started. Shout out to Big Boars MMA. Kue Fernandez versus Perez Zayam, wherever that may be on this. So yeah, see here. They just updated it on ESPN. Kue Fernandez versus Perez Zayam has been canceled, but it is looking like they're trying to keep Kue Fernandez on the card. And this Harry Hardwick fellow looks like it's who will be replacing Perez Zayam. Don't know too much about Harry Hardwick, but that, as far as we know right now, is what the replacement will be. So
Yeah, interesting. So that needs to come off the main card, but either way.
yeah, definitely a little bit of a shaking up of things, perhaps. But that out of the way, let's get into what we know is actually taking place here. What's up?
Yeah, I want to mention first that the WWE they over this weekend they did go to France. They had the Clash in Paris. The crowd was really, really good. So I think you should expect very, very good things from this audience on Saturday. You should get a lot of good pops for the hometown people, even if we don't have a lot of them, I'm thinking. But we'll definitely get into it. So expect a good audience, I'll tell you that.
Yeah, no, it seems that with the legalization of the sport in the nation of France, that it could not have come at a better time. That it looks like the French populace is interested in the sport, and we're seeing more and more fighters coming out of France now. So it's good. Yeah, I would suspect that would definitely be the case. And of course, if you are longer viewers of the channel, you'll know that we watched The Cage and we watched the KO movie. So both of those, both French productions. So France has a definite interest in mixed martial arts, and that should be expressed on this card as well.
Yeah, absolutely. So if anybody out there is watching from France, just know that we are representing a lot of the media that you guys put out into the space and we are consuming.
Absolutely. Yes. Shout out to France and our French viewers. All right. Starting this thing off, Shauna Bannon versus Sam Hughes. Bannon is 7-1, 2-1 in the UFC. Her wins are over Pooja Tomar and Alice Ardelian. Jeez, excuse me. Her loss is to Bruna Brazil. Sub win over Tomar. Split decision over Ardelian. Unanimous decision loss to Brazil. Sam Hughes is 10-6, 3-2 in her last 5. Her wins are over Stephanie Luciano, Victoria Dudakova, and Jacqueline Amarim. Losses to Yasmin Hagari and Piera Rodriguez. Last 5 were all decisions. Last 2 wins were both split decisions.
This one is pretty fun. I think to start the card, this should be interesting. Sam Hughes actually looked really good in her last performance. I'm a big Stephanie Luciano fan, and I thought Stephanie had this one in the bag. Sam Hughes actually put on a resurgence of her performance. I mean, she was somebody who looked like she was able to take shots, and she was advancing. She was in the zone, really. Shauna Bannon is somebody who can be rangy on the feet and do a lot of good things, but never really, she doesn't really have that dog in her, like she got kicked in the face by Pooja and rightfully, I mean, she probably that should have ended her life right there. That was a crazy kick, but she was able to finish that. But I don't think necessarily on the feet she's ever going to come out and have that like, real gritty performance that Sam Hughes is thriving on. That last one, I'm telling you, she looked real good. So I think Sam is a good one, minus 310. Holy shit. Would I say Sam Hughes is worth that? No, you got to go with Shauna on this one. Never mind. Take Shauna Bannon and go for it.
I see. You can't just go off of that hoping that the dog takes it. You know what I'm saying? I mean, like you got to go with what actually is going to happen here. And I mean, you were saying all the right things up until you looked at that line, my friend. I mean, Sam Hughes is like, look, I have said for a while that Sam Hughes is a fighter who defies her record. I don't know how she racked up so many losses. Maybe she was just going up against some, legitimate killers. And actually, I mean, saying that, what I read out there, Pierre Rodriguez, even though she did that very dumb headbutt, that disqualified her. Beyond that, she has actually been pretty damn good. So like people like Piera Rodriguez, if that's who Sam Hughes has been going up against and losing, okay. And maybe Sam Hughes needed some time to get a little better herself. But what I have seen out of her is exactly what you were saying. She goes out there and she fights with grit and determination. Shauna is she's
She's
not
just
as tough.
prancing around out
Yeah,
there.
she's just not as tough. Now, Shauna Bannon is that's my committed girlfriend. We're in a monogamous relationship exclusive to other people. That this is the truth. So obviously I got a lot of affection for her. But when it comes down to the fight game here, I mean, Sam Hughes is going to go out there and she's going to get her hands on her. And I think that that's going to be a big problem for Shauna, is that, like you were saying, Shauna thrives on outside pointing. Sam is a wrestler, so like she will try to go in there and get her to the ground. She'll try to make it a lot dirtier than what Shauna is going to want to encounter in this fight. And if Shauna thinks that she's going to be doing her little kangaroo hopping, I think that Sam's going to be able to see right through that in a way that maybe Pooja was letting happen a little too long.
Yeah, I could see that, but I also don't want to be. I know I looked at the line and I didn't change my mind. I maybe was gonna take Shauna, but I was hesitant to let the facts, be pushed aside. It is what it is. Shauna is 7-1 as a prospect. Sam Hughes, like you said, 10-6. The record doesn't reflect. But maybe we got with Stephanie Luciano, we got a one-off performance rather than the 6 losses kind of performances. Than we're gonna get as she continues on. Um, I don't know. Maybe Shauna's just able to evade her the entire time. We've seen people who are just unable to track down takedowns, and they look. Listen, -310 if you bet on Sam Hughes and she gets her seventh loss. Like, it just only makes you feel dumb. Like, why would I think somebody who's lost 6 times before they've reached 15 wins? Why would I think that they're a shoe in for a win? Like, I don't know. Like, that's why I think just taking the dog is like, in this era, it's like with betflation, guys. You might as well just take the fucking dog, like, like
Well,
in the UFC, like specifically right here, like.
yeah, no, no, and I get that. Like, and if you want to go for Shauna Bannon, what I would say is go straight bet. Don't parlay her. Just put a straight on her, and hope for the best on that. That would be my recommendation here, because I believe that what I would like to think when it comes to Sam Hughes is that she is a fighter that has gotten better over time. That's what I'm
Mhm.
thinking has happened here. Bannon, still early in her career, she has the ability to take a loss and still be okay. Like, she's going to come back. She also, one thing I would like to see out of Shauna is to show us that dog. Like she has the ability in every fight to go in there and be like, I was getting pressured. I was, I was up against the ropes. I had to really fight through it and come back and overcome. I don't think that we've necessarily seen too much of that just yet. Maybe a little bit in the Alice fight,
Mhm.
but other than that, like I feel like she's had kind of competitors who are sort of on the same plane with her in the level of intensity of the competition. Sam, I believe, is going to be a little bit more intense. Shauna can rise to that occasion. So I'm not saying it's out of the question. I mean, I do think that Shauna has some decent, like, fundamental skills. Like, her kicks are really nice. Top striking, not as impressive, but like she can get away with a lot with her kicking and the ranginess that she has. There is potential for the upset here. Put a straight bet on Shauna. That there's nothing wrong with that. But if you want to go off of what I think is actually going to happen, I think that Sam gets her to the ground, and it stays on the ground for a decent amount of time, because Shauna's not going to be able to handle what's going on down there.
you know and I know this is this is me purely making assumptions, not basing that off of any information that I have. I don't talk to any of these women, but Shauna seems like, as somebody who's 7-1 at age 31, like, she seems like she's in the position to make adjustments that are going to be major help to her career. She could still learn new things. Sam Hughes at 10-6, I know 33 is not too far off from 31, but like, she's at the point in her career, it's like, we ain't learning nothing new. We got the game plan. We know how to win. We've done it 10 times, so I don't know. That's just the way that I think. I think Shauna might come in here with something that would shock us. That's just my opinion.
Could be. It could be. And I mean, and more of what I'm saying when it comes to Sam is that she's already made the adjustments. Like, I think
Hmm.
that we have been seeing time over time, because if you recall, Sam Hughes was like underdog in like the majority of her fights. Like, I would say going back at least like 3, 4, 5, maybe.
Yeah.
So like she had been counted out a whole bunch, and there were a couple of them where it was like she was a heavy underdog and ended up winning. So it's like she's already kind of like shown that she's made some forward progress, in my opinion. And I think that is going to carry through here. But like I said, if you're going to go for Shauna, nothing wrong with it. but just I would say if you're gonna parlay it, maybe with one other fighter and small money on it would be my recommendation.
Yeah, 100%. This one should be a good opener, though. I'm actually excited for this.
All right, so final call. Who are you going with?
I'm going with Shauna Bannon.
All right, I'm going with Sam Hughes, and as always, people, this is a perfect card to mention it because we are doing this as predictions. We are streaming on our individual channels. Whoever you think has the better takes here, like the video on that channel.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. Like this fucking video. And everybody in the chat, one more time: Andy, Hydra, Boars, Rick Allen, of course. Shout out to you. And there was one more. Didgery Dave, of course. Yes, of course, of course.
Absolutely appreciate all you guys chilling with us. Thank you very much for being here. Moving on to the next fight of the evening is Andreas Gustafsson versus Hinat Fakhretdinov. Gustafsson is 12-2, one win in the UFC, coming off of one win on the Contender Series, unanimous decision win over Chaos Williams, knockout over Pat Petlick on the Contender Series. Fakhretdinov is 23-1-1, 5-0-1 in his last 5. Wins over Brian Battle, Kevin Lee, Nicholas Dalby, and Carlos Leal. Draw with Eliseu Zaleski dos Santos.
This one, gosh, I looked at the odds first, and I would like to just say they got this one wrong. I think the hype, and I think people like me and you who talk up Andreas Gustafsson, and rightfully so, he is somebody that deserves to be talked about. But at age 34, as a prospect, to be a favorite against somebody who's just been a monster in the UFC, according to the stat sheet. I mean, he just wins every fight by unanimous decision or whatever. He knows how to win in the UFC, and he's going to rob you if he's in the specific area of the world. But as of right now, Andreas hasn't really. Chaos Williams was a good opponent on short notice, but Andreas Gustafsson needs to be able to prove that he can do his game to somebody like Reinhard Fakhretdinov before I believe that, before I believe he's going to do it to Reinhard. I'm going to have to see it because that plus money on Reinhard is absolutely beautiful. I mean, gosh, this dude, you know what you're gonna get. I mean, he's not great, but he definitely is not gonna get pushed around. Like this dude he's been up against a lot of different people, and Nicholas Dalby, one of the guys that I would argue probably beat Reinhardt, but he was able to weather that madman. And I don't know if Andreas Gustafsson, if he doesn't get his rhythm and get his game plan going, is he going to be able to weather the storm and then enact the game plan again? And or is he going to be able to switch the game plan and do something different? That's what we're waiting to see from him. But at age 34 and somebody who just kind of walked into the sport kind of deal, like, and already had a major injury. We didn't forget about this. He had a major injury to his neck, it's just hard for me to see that he's going to walk in and just dominate this fucking sport, even though he is very unique when it comes to his fighting style. So,
Yeah, I think you're making some good points there. I mean, he's 34. Fakhretdinov is 33. So, I mean, as far as age-wise goes, they're similar. I understand what you're saying, though, is that like he's coming in a lot fresher, a lot newer, and Fakhretdinov has had a long record. I mean, like that's the crazy. Like if you bring up his record, it is just all wins. I mean, like he's got the one loss there and the one draw, and then aside from that, it's just a big block of W's. But what I would say to that is that he is coming from a specific region of the world where they fight a whole hell of a lot, and people might say that that record might be slightly padded. Either way, we've seen what he has done in the UFC. So that being said, it is a tall order to think that Gustafsson is going to get his way in this fight, because if you looked at the two that we have seen in the UFC, counting the Contender Series, came into the Contender Series and got some great elbows inside a clinch to get a knockout off of that. Didn't really tell us a whole hell of a lot because it was quick. Another one, just like what we were talking about in the Contender Series. What we saw against Chaos Williams, though, was a lot of smothering and a lot of striking when the time was right, and basically being like the muscle, like be like putting a lot of force out there and kind of like jamming his way like into positions where he wanted it to be. Fakhretdinov is a tough customer when it comes to that kind of a fight style. Like it's exactly what you said. You're not going to be able to bully Fakhretdinov. And I think that that's going to be a problem for Gustafsson. He's one of those dudes that like he commands the pace of the fight Fakardinov is going to be resisting that a lot. That's going to pose a lot of problems for Gustafsson, I would say. Is there potential for him to win this one? Definitely. That's why the line is so close. But I'm tending to agree with you here that I think that Fakardinov is probably the wiser choice on this one. And for plus money, I think that there's definite value there too. So I want to believe in Gustafsson. Aside from his questionable tattoos, I think he's a fun guy to watch. I enjoy both of the fights that I've seen of him. And there is potential for him to win this. I mean, I do think that he could come out there and just with the sheer power, because he's very massive. I don't have the picture of him here, but this dude is jacked to shit.
Bane for good reason, nicknamed Bane. So
Yeah, exactly. It lives up to the nickname for sure. So I mean, there is potential for him to get early shots, maybe get Fakardinov off of his rhythm. Fakardinov not able to, get his own offense going in the way that he wants it to go. Potentially. I mean, I think that there may be something there, but I just think that Fakardinov at this stage of his career is probably going to be able to weather the storm early. And if it gets into the later rounds, Gustafsson's going to have some problems.
here's what I see happening. We got Gustafsson, who loves the elbow clinches. He obviously loves to shove you up against the cage and smash you. I think we're gonna see that, but we're gonna see Reinhardt be able to flip the position. Gustafsson is not somebody who's been able to. He's not been used to that. This is not something that he's used to. Has been on the back end of the clinch situations, and he may get some elbows off, sure, but Reinhardt is going to spam knees up the middle. Gustafsson is going to gas so quickly after the first round because he for somebody who fights the way he does have a crazy good gas tank because he just walks in there and just mauls people, and then just that's what's so scary about him. He just never stops, and he can just smash you for 3 rounds. But that's with no opposing force and him just doing what he wants, and he's comfortable. I know this has little relevance, but if you know the famous boxing legend Butterbean, the biggest boxer you've ever seen, he never got tired. He had great cardio, and it's just because he was comfortable all the time. He just never really had to feel like he was in danger, kind of deal. And I think once Gustafsson feels a little knee to his sternum, he's going to start to feel a little more on his gas tank, and the elbows are going to come a lot slower. They're not going to be as powerful. And I think Reinhardt is going to slip away with actually, to be honest with you, I think he might go ahead and finish him by a TKO if I had to be real. So
All right, it could be. Yeah, I'm going along with the line of thinking for sure. It's just because again, going back to the Chaos Williams fight, like Gustafsson got his way so quickly in that match, and then there was just nothing coming back. And I do think you're exactly right that what I will say is that if Gustafsson is able to overcome what Fakardinov puts out, if Fakardinov is on his game and trying his hardest and getting off what he wants to get off, and Gustafsson still can do all of what he does, then maybe we need to reassess how we're looking at Gustafsson going forward, because he might just be him at that point. But until that happens with this fight, I'm in the same camp here. I think that Fakardinov is going to be able to weather anything that he's putting out early. And I mean, I don't know if I necessarily believe that he's gonna fold off of what you're saying, like the knees up the middle, but
no,
it's
that's not going to finish him. No,
well,
it'll be punches, but
whatever. I mean, my point is, I don't necessarily think that it's like going to go down 100% that way and like be just like a shift kind of thing happening. It might just be like a war of attrition for a long time, and then it just may the better man win kind of thing at the end of the day could end up happening. This could be a decision win for Fakardinov, but if it goes that far, I think that Fakardinov probably ends up on top of that.
Yeah, 100%.
So, all right, both going Fakardinov then.
Going Fakardinov.
Hurts my heart to say, because I do like Gustafsson a lot, and I would love to see him, pull off something amazing here. It would be really cool. And it's just amazing to me that this fight is even at welterweight. They are both fucking massive for welterweight. But
true.
Yeah,
true.
So we'll see. But yeah, I guess all right, both going Fakardinov on this one.
Yep.
Moving on, Brad Tavares versus Robert Brejcik. Let's see here.
The
Brad
middleweight
Tavares.
goat, Brad Tavares, by the way.
You know it. Come on, bro. You know that this be true. Brad Tavares is 21-11, 2-3 in his last 5. His wins are over Gerald Mearshart and Chris Weidman. His losses are to Jiyoung Park, the Iron Turtle, Gregory Rodriguez, aka RoboCop, and Bruno Silva. Yikes. Brychik is 17-6, 0-1 in the UFC. Unanimous decision loss to Ihor Potieria. 4 prior wins outside of the UFC were all knockouts.
When you said everything there, the only thing that I take away, and I just want your opinion. What do you think when I say that Brad Tavares' name is in the same circle as somebody like a Kevin Holland or a Michael Olajaychek or a Rene de Ritter, because he also beat GM3, and they only give GM3 to worthy people that they want to have on the resumes. Like beating GM3 is good to have. Brad Tavares, is he? What do you say about him being in the camp of those guys? I mean, I know he's been around forever, so it's like finally we get that out the way that he beat GM3, but that didn't happen a while ago. Why? It happened just a little bit ago, kind of deal in the grand scheme of things. So, what is really here for us with Brad Tavares?
I mean, yeah, like when you put it in the context of the win over Gerald Mearshart, like I definitely think that there's a bigger variety to those people than like having Mearshart as the connective tissue would lead one to believe. Definitely a wider array of skill sets in there than maybe Tavares is, should be included with, perhaps. But that being said, Tavares is a tough customer. I mean, granted, he does have a decent amount of losses on the record. It's been a spotty career overall in the big picture, but he's technically sound. I mean, I think that he's as technically sound as Mikhail Olashechuk. I would say that. I would say that as far as technicality goes, they're probably on similar footing. You got to remember too with Olashechuk, he's just now gotten himself in a position of being a little bit better technically when it comes to his striking. So Tavares is already there, I would say, with that. So I
I
don't know. I mean, what are you getting at?
I think I only bring it up is because these are people, these are names, like these are people that you know. I know Mikhail Olajaychek is a little on the latter end of that, like Kevin Holland, Rene de Ritter, and there's plenty more that Shard at BGM3, Hamzat, all these people are big named people. These are market guys. Brad Tavares being one of these guys that fought GM3 is like, I think it was in the Apex, but I don't know. That's the one thing that I think about when I think of this fight coming up here is like he's fighting third now on the Paris, fight night. It's like what is he's just in the middle of the game. Like he's never gonna advance to being like the co-main or like doing anything like this. In his point of view, to be honest, he's been very boring. But he is somebody that at the time when I first started watching him and he came in and beat Chris Weidman and kicked him in his leg every single fucking time, like I was like, boom, I'm on board. Okay, Brad Tavares. But then as we go on, he's seemingly done nothing in the time that's happened. So
No, I mean Tavares is a middling talent. To be perfectly honest, I mean if we're calling a spade on that one, yeah, I mean there's really not much more. Like the fact that he's matched up with a dude who is 0-1 in the UFC right now after the career that he has had should signal that. Aside from the GM3 aside, like that's more of where I would be putting my stock is in the fact that he is going up against a guy who couldn't beat Ihor Potieria, who is no longer in the UFC.
mhm.
Yeah, I don't think that there is much more for Brad Tavares than being a maybe slightly higher than middle of the road, but that remains to be seen if there is a higher ceiling. But I do think he gets the win here. I think that Brychik has not shown us anything that should lead us to believe otherwise. Aside from wins outside of the UFC, which I don't put much stock in.
I find what's crazy about this is Brad Tavares is one of these decision merchant kind of vets. Like he's been here for a while, and he certainly knows a judge or two. How is he only a -225? Is my question here. Like this should be one of those -1300 type of, and people will go into it and they'll be mad that he didn't get a finish as a -1300. But then you would obviously have to know that he just goes to decision but wins unanimously. That's how he's such a heavy favorite kind of deal. But the reason he's not is weird.
Yeah, I mean, I guess maybe people are thinking that the loss to Ehor might have just been first time jitters, big lights kind of situation. Maybe. I mean, it was a UD loss, so I mean, he did go the distance with Ehor. I don't specifically remember that fight like point by point, so maybe there was something in there that would lead one to believe that there's more to Brychik than what the loss would signal. But I mean, if he had 4 knockouts prior to that loss and then is coming in and going to UD loss, I'm like it would not signal to me that there is like something greater that we haven't seen yet, at least like on paper.
Yeah, I would definitely just say Brad Tavares by decision is the likely story here, and this is going to be sweet. The parlay that I'm thinking about now that I add this on top of it, I mean the decision call, it's going to be so good. If he's a -225 money line, the decision's going to be plus something like for
Oh
sure.
yeah, absolutely. I mean, there might be finish potential possibly, but Tavares is really not much of a finisher often.
He ain't no killer, man. He's just in there to fight. Like he has the most time spent in the UFC octagon as a UFC middleweight. Like this dude just be prancing around. Like he obviously ain't there to finish shit. So whatever.
Yeah. So yeah, I mean that's pretty much where everything lies here. I mean, look, could Brychek come out here and shock the world with this one and put on, an explosive performance that's going to change everybody's mind? Yeah, maybe. I mean, the guy is 17-6. Like he's got enough experience that he should be well equipped. If he's going to be a fighter at the level of the UFC's caliber, then he should be there now.
Mhm.
Dude's 35 years old, for fuck's sake. I mean, this is, it's kind of a now or never sort of thing.
0-1 in the UFC at 35. Love to see it.
That's what
Love
I'm saying. So it's like, they're like, it's a shit or get off the pot situation with that.
It's not even that he's 0-1 in the UFC. It's the organization too. It's like he's 0-1 in the UFC, and you give him somebody who's like one of the longest UFC tenured people. Like, why do you treat them like this? Like, why are this the people that you match up with them? Like, I don't know. That's just
Oh, well,
crazy to
I
me.
mean, to prove if he's even worthy of still being on the roster, I would think he gets cut after this.
You who would have got cut?
No, that Brychek gets cut after
But
this
no, no,
fight.
no. No. I'm talking
Oh,
about
you're
in
saying the other way?
yes, in Brad Tavares' case, it's like, yo, he's been here for the longest time. It's like, why the fuck would we want to see him fight somebody who's 0-1 in the UFC? Like,
Yeah,
Neil Magny is fighting all the people like gatekeeping status. Brad Tavares gets the dude who's 0-1 to Ihor Potieria. Okay,
because
crazy.
he's a company man and he's in good with the promotion and he continues to get booked and that's just going to be how he is a young Jim Miller, my dude.
Mm-hmm,
You
mm-hmm.
know what I'm saying? So come on. I mean, like that's what it is. I mean, Jim Miller will get that type of matchup, and that'll
True.
happen. So, yeah. So I mean, that's just one of those deals. I mean, like if Islam wasn't or no, excuse me, if Muslim Salikov was not kicking people's heads off, similar situation. Santiago Ponzinibbio, I can name a million of these guys that are in the same boat here. They're filling cards.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
Yeah, I hear
I mean,
you.
why we need it, that's the other thing. I mean, we're going to have to see how this ends up going with the Paramount deal if we're going to keep having these long cards. Because, I mean, like, the bigger question to me would be, why do we need to fill cards with 14 fights in the first place? I mean, you could have just easily had 13. I mean, granted, you want to overfill just in case things drop off. And we did have, for as I am drop off. So, maybe there's some reality in that with from the promotion side, but I understand what you're saying. But that's my answer to it would be it's filling a slot. Hopefully it's entertaining enough, and and really I think it's more of a test on the Brychek side. See if he's even worthy of still being on this roster.
Even if he says yes to every first option, like, oh yeah, Brad Tavares, like he never says no. Like he obviously is going to say yes to any option we give on the table because he wants to fill the card. Like he knows that's his role. As the UFC organization, Dana White, he looks at this 0-1 guy and he's like, yeah, Brad, that's good for you. Yeah, I know he'll take this. I know he'll take this fucking slop.
I
Like
mean, maybe they think that they'll get a finish. Maybe they're thinking that there'll be a some highlight in there.
when this fight, I'm hoping that this goes one of two ways. I'm hoping he comes in and gets a knockout, and Chase looks really stupid, and like, wow, they knew something. Like, obviously, he's good somehow, some way. But if it goes the way where Brad Tavares styles on him and holds him down for 3 rounds, and I come back on Monday and I say, this is what the organization wanted to give your Hall of Fame kind of career kind of guy, whatever. So
Yeah,
uh,
no, it's going to be the latter. Brad Tavares is going to he's going to point on the outside. He's going to cage clinch, and he is going to get a victory here in less than stellar fashion, I would believe, unless Brychek, magically has gained some crazy potential that we did not see earlier. But I don't. Again, UD loss to Potieria speaks very loudly to me, and if that's what's already on your resume in the UFC, you're going to have to prove a lot with this fight, and I don't see it happening.
Just chalk it up to Polish power, call it a day, and just I don't know. Like that's the only thing you can say for this dude. So
Yeah,
whatever.
yeah. So there you go. If you have faith in the Polish power, then roll the dice. But I think that Brad Tavares is the safe bet here.
Hell yeah.
All right, moving on. Sam Patterson, Trey Waters. Patterson is 13-2-1, 3-1 in the UFC after a sub win on the Contender Series. Wins are over Danny Barlow, Kiefer Crosby, and Johan Linus. Loss is to Yanal Ashmuz. All 5 of Patterson's last 5 ended in a finish. KO'd by Barlow, or no, he KO'd Barlow. He subbed Crosby and Linus, and also subbed Vinicius Sensi as well. Got knocked out by Yanal Ashmuz. Waters is 9-1. He is 2-0 in the UFC. His wins are over Billy Goff and Josh Quinlan, both by unanimous decision. Came up through LFA, lost to Gabriel Bonfim on the Contender Series, went back to LFA to win their welterweight title by knockout, and then off to the UFC he went. So, with all of that information, Chase, what do you think about this fight?
Well, Sam Patterson definitely shocked the world in this last performance because, I would like to believe that he was counted out by damn near everybody. I mean, you look at this guy and listen, looks can be deceiving. Sam Patterson is one of these guys that you look at and just don't see fighter written all over. But he walks in there and he shows you that he definitely is somebody that you cannot mistaken for a good fighter. He knows how to go for a finish. He's a killer, be killed kind of guy, which you love to see. And then Trey Waters. Honestly, who am I even looking at right now? Have I even seen this dude perform? Like seriously,
I
I
mean,
don't
you,
know.
you saw him beat Billy Goff. You don't remember the Billy Goff win by
N-
unanimous decision?
nope, definitely the only Billy Goff loss that I know is when he got choked out by Brahimaj. So yeah.
Yeah, no, I mean, like Waters is another one of these guys that kind of what we were talking about with the Contender Series, where it's you're in the LFA and you're a champion in LFA and you win that by knockout, and that's really cool. And then you get into the UFC and you're UD winning over Billy Goff and
Hmm.
Josh Quinlan. So I mean, based on what we have seen out of Sam Patterson, he's another one of those dudes that I feel like even myself that I've counted out. Now, Sam Patterson did get knocked out by Yanal Ashmuz. That's not great, but that
Sure.
was also very early. So, I mean, as of what we've seen now, like you said, killer be killed kind of guy. Definitely a dude who doesn't necessarily look the part, kind of a slightly more unassuming dude. Not unassuming, but more of just like average Englishman, I would say.
English Chase Hooper.
Yeah, something along those lines, perhaps. Just your average run of the mill English gentleman, but he goes out there and does his thing. I mean, I remember the last win that he got. I was like, oh, okay, Sam Patterson. He actually might be that guy over here, And so I remember at that time saying, I think it is time that that I put that proper respect on Sam Patterson's name and stop counting this guy out as just your average run of the mill guy. Trey Waters has not done that for me with those 2 wins that I had described there, and a win in the LFA. Even being a champion coming into the organization doesn't speak as loudly as what I've seen out of Sam Patterson. So I think that Sam Patterson takes this fight.
Yeah, I would like to believe that Sam Patterson goes ahead and gets another finish, but since he's done that for the last couple in a row, I'm gonna go ahead and say decision for Sam Patterson. We're taking another tentative decision on this one.
Yeah, I'm also kind of leaning in that direction because I do think that Trey Waters is tough enough to weather the storm. I think that he's probably going to maybe get into some submission situations that might be problematic for him. If Sam Patterson is going to get a finish in this, I would probably tend to believe it's going to be a submission. A knockout of Danny Barlow. I mean, I think Barlow's not that great. So
Mhm.
I think that maybe he was an easier knockout than Trey Waters would end up being. So that would be where my gut is at, is that if Sam Patterson is going to get a finish, it would be by submission. But I'm also tending to believe that this will probably be a bit of a grudgy kind of match, one of those kind of slugging it out, both, 2-way action kind of match sort of thing.
Yeah.
But Sam Patterson comes out on top in that.
Yeah, I would hope so because, I felt really stupid about the last one for counting him out. So if I feel even dumber for putting chips on him and then he loses, that's going to feel really stupid. But Sam Patterson definitely looked impressive in his last one. So he's somebody that I don't mind losing money on, I guess. We'll see.
Yeah, I mean, I would be a little careful about this one just because Trey Waters might be the guy that could, figure it out. I wouldn't say that's out of the question, but based on the paths that we've seen from both, I think that Sam Patterson makes more sense as the likely outcome here. So if you want to do Trey Waters again, this is another one. Maybe a parlay Trey Waters with Sean O'Bannon. Go for a double dog parlay there. Two for short money, that could be a nice little hit there if both of them come through. But I'm as far as like the actual mainline parlay goes, I'm going Sam Patterson on this one.
Yeah, 100%.
All right, keeping it moving here. Reese McKee versus Axel Sola. Reese McKee is 14-6-1, 1-2 in the UFC. Win over Daniel Frunza. His losses are to Ange Losa and Chidi Njokuani. 2 wins prior outside of the UFC were a title win and defense as the Cage Warriors welterweight champion. Both of his wins there were by knockout. Sola is 10-0-1. This is his UFC debut. 4-0-1 in his last 5, all of which were in Aris FC. And of course, we know Aris from the Cage series.
Nice.
He was the former Aris lightweight champion for all of his last 5, 3 wins by knockout in that span. And fun fact, the lone draw on his record is to Dagir Imavov, who is Nasruddin Imavov's brother. That went to a majority draw in Aris for the lightweight title. Sola retained the title because it was a draw, and they just never rematched for some reason. So I don't know what happened there, but there's your little fun fact for this one. So Sola's got, some credentials in Aris, but Aris is in France. France is still an emerging market. What do you make out of all this considering Reese McKee and his spotty record?
That Reese McKee up until his last win, he was not doing very good. So
That's legit fact. See, that's an understatement. I would say Reese McKee was one I was writing off really heavily.
yeah, but he did walk in and he beat up a Romanian guy. So will he walk in and beat up a Frenchman? I don't know. Who is this Axel dude? Reese McKee's somebody we know. We know he's tough and he's fought a lot of big name people. That the experience that he's gained from those, like when you think about experience, you don't necessarily have to have like a 3 round grudge match with somebody to gain the experience. But if you go in there with Hamza, right? Because Reese McKee has fought Hamza, I'm pretty sure. If you go in there, uh, it's a sorry, you threw me off with your facial. I'm pretty sure that's true, but we can fact check that in a little
Yeah,
bit. But once you get in there and you realize like this is the top of the game when it comes to wrestling, like that somebody else is wrestling, it'll feel different when you get in there with them, and you just know when you get into that exchange. And Reese McKee has picked up a lot of good experience against people, so I think that's going to be key in this.
yeah. I would say that the experience is definitely there for McKee at this point. Um, Sola, a lot of retentions of titles. Again, do I put a lot of faith and stock in that when it's Eris? I think is the big question for me. I don't know if I do. And I
Mhm.
don't, I mean, I'm not trying to be disrespectful to Eris as a promotion. I think that they, are definitely doing good things out there for MMA in France. Um, that being said, though, honestly, this is one where I really like the matchmaking because this is the exact right type of fighter to be putting up another promotion champion against. Like we've talked about, and we're going to talk about one a little bit up the card here of a guy coming in outside of the promotion that got shot very high up in the pecking order when he came into the promotion. There's reasons for that, but when it comes to Eris and a champion coming out of there, I think Reese McKee is the exact right level of competition to go into a new organization against and make a stamp, make a name for yourself off of your debut in the UFC. Does he do that? That is the big question. Not having seen tape of the guy, it's a little bit hard for me to make a full on call there. I'm kind of, this is a rare one for me because, I've always said, people coming in from outside of the organization, I'm putting no stock in. I might have to go against my gut on that again. Nah, I'll go with Reese.
I think you're gonna hate yourself for picking Reese because now you're gonna go against your gut. So me going with Axel, I'm just gonna style on you next week when he wins, and I'm gonna be like, man, you should have just trusted yourself. I told you, man, I told you.
I will be completely okay with that being the case if Axel comes in here and puts on for Eris. If he comes in here and he shows up, because Reese, like I said, Reese McKee is the exact right guy. You come in here, knock him out real quick. You come in here, go in and get some kind of crazy submission that you weren't expecting. Like, show me something that leads me to believe that you are as skilled as your resume in another promotion would lead one to believe on paper. Not a problem at all. I'm going to be completely okay with that. And Sola has a big opportunity here to be the next wave French guy, because we've had a couple of those at this point. Morgan Charrier, for as I am, who's now
Nora
unfortunately not.
Cornell,
Yeah, exactly. There's a couple of them that you can name coming out of France now that you want to
Kevin
believe.
Doucette, but we haven't seen him in a while.
Yeah, these guys are coming in, these guys and ladies coming in, and you want to believe that they're going to be the next ones putting on for the nation here. This guy has defended a title in another organization several times. You would think that would be enough to give you the impression that he's going to come in here and do good things. And again, against Reese McKee, who has been spotty at best, and that's being pretty charitable there. This should be the one that, if he's going to be that next wave of French fighters, that he does it here in this fight. So I will be completely okay with it, but I'm going to stick to what I had said before. I'm a man of my word here. I'm going with Reese McKee on this one. May the best man win.
One last thing, and I think this might actually sway your opinion just one more time. One more opportunity that I have is when you were introducing Reese McKee, you said that he was 2-0 or 0-2 in the UFC, or two losses in the UFC. That was actually incorrect because it was his second stint in the UFC. So yes, he has two previous losses. One being to Hamzat Chimaev, first round KO. The other one being to Alex Morono. So does this change your opinion on whether he is UFC comp, whatever the word is? But like, if you think about it, he hasn't won against somebody who's been in the UFC and actually decent, and they've given him two people on their debut now, and he beat one by nasty, brutal KO, knocked him down 4 times. What's he going to do to this guy on his debut? I mean, the promotion clearly understands that Reese McKee is not of the level that they could just throw him up against anybody. They have to hand pick and put him on the regional scene cards where he can fight the up and coming guys that they know he'll probably be able to make it close against. But
fair, and thank you very much for correcting the limited research that I did there. So I appreciate that, because I had a little, there's another fighter on this card that is in the second stint that I got right there, but did not get it right with Reese McKee. So thank you for that correction. And yes, fighting Hamzat, fighting Morono. What does that do? That certainly does add to the equation here.
Onslows, Chidi, and Jekawani. I mean, these are people, like, it just keeps getting worse.
I know. It's true. It's true. Yeah, it definitely does. But devil, I guess, when it comes to this, because if I have not seen Axel Sola, I don't know what he's bringing to the table when it comes to this. The only thing I know is the record. I know what's on paper, and is that going to be enough versus a guy who has more experience, a lot more experience when it comes to Reese McKee? 14-6, he's seen a lot at this point. I gotta go with the devil, it's unfortunate, because I like I said, I'll take it. I will take this loss gladly if Sola comes in here and puts on a performance that's worthy of making me feel that way.
I want you to just, when you see Solo walk out and he looks like the villain from The Cage, and he wins by brutal KO and he doesn't stop hitting him or something, that's going to be the moment you realize that you are good at what you do, but you just got to trust yourself. So
he could have been who that character was modeled after.
Exactly. It's going to be the actor himself. Like, it's actually going to be him. You'll be like, holy shit, he was a fighter this entire time,
Could be that would be a crazy turn of events. I would be pretty impressed by that.
Yeah.
But yeah, all right. Well, so fair enough then. So I guess you're all in on Axel Sola now. Is this what I'm hearing?
I'm going with Axel Sola. He's actually going to be the fat friend from the cage. This is going to be the epic. This is what they were setting up. I mean, France knows how to play their part. It's chess, not checkers. So
I love it.
walk out with the girlfriend too. She's going to be in his corner.
Hell yeah, I like that. Very good. All right. Well, fair enough then. And as I said, Sola come out here and put on a great show. I will be completely happy with that. And Reese McKee is the guy to do it against. So I will go with
100%.
Reese McKee, but yeah, Sola has every opportunity to do it.
And for anybody listening right now, if you didn't understand what we were talking about, please go ahead and check out our review of The Cage. We did 5 episodes of Netflix's original The Cage, filmed in France with a lot of French fighters and French, celebs and stuff going around in there. I don't know if they were actually celebrities, but maybe you guys would recognize more of them than me. But you should go check it out and let me know if there's any in there. So shout out that.
Absolutely. Yes. The Cage was a very fun time for the two of us, even if it was a little bit of a tough watch. So if go through and watch those reviews, it was definitely entertaining.
Hell yeah.
All right. Next fight on the card is Marcin Tybura versus Ante Dalia. This is a rematch between these two gentlemen. Tybura beat Dalia at M1 Challenge back in 2015. Tybura is 27-9, 3-2 in his last 5. His wins are over Mick Parkin, Jonathan Janice, and Tai Tuivasa. His losses are to Sergey Spivak and Tom Aspinall. This is the debut of Dalia in the UFC. He is 4-1 in his last 5. He is the 2022 PFL World Championship Tournament winner. Not a super active fighter, however. After the 2022 tourney win, he fought once in 2023 and won, once in 2024 and lost, and then once in 2025 in April and won that fight.
Well, to go off of that, I mean, he just won $1 million. Why would he fight? Why would he actively fight?
Yeah,
So
literally going to say, $1 million certainly, makes the bed feel a lot nicer, and it makes it a lot easier to sleep in late.
yeah, I'm sure the California King that he bought with that is really cushy. But either way, this being a rematch is interesting to note. I'm glad that you were able to pick up on that because I often place my bets and then the show starts and I question it all the time. It's like, why do we not get this information beforehand? They'll literally be walking out. You'll see them putting on the Vaseline and they're like, man, this is a trilogy fight between. And it's like, what the fuck are you? What? You couldn't have said that on Twitter 2 days ago? So that is good to know. That means I'm taking Tybura for sure. If he won the first time, and these are heavyweights, Tybura, he is a decision guy. So if they rob him, I can totally see it. But I'm not taking anybody from PFL for sure. Not gonna happen.
Yeah, I mean the fact that this is a pick'em under those circumstances is pretty crazy to me. I mean, this is Tabora at -105 on this book, and Dalia at -115. So I mean, basically a pick'em, pretty much a toss up there. I'm all in on Tybura on this one as well. I mean, granted, there is something to be said for going through a tournament system and beating a large number of fighters through that tournament system, but it is PFL. And if I stuck with it for Reese McKee, I'm sticking with it for this one as well. And the fact that he already beat this gentleman in 2015, I don't see any reason why there should be anything to lead me to believe that he doesn't do the exact same thing again. I mean, the what we've seen out of Tybura is that he is he's tenacious enough. He's a dude who gasses definitely though. So I mean, if Dalia has a really good gas tank, then perhaps there's something there later in the fight. But I think that Tybura is tough enough to go up against whatever this dude is bringing to the table. And I mean, granted, a lot of the guys that Tybura has beaten recently are newer fighters, and this is not a newer fighter, but he is.
How is he not?
I mean, new to the UFC, but I mean, he's 25-6.
I mean, that still counts. I mean, it's different, But either way, go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, I'm just saying he's been around the block. He's
True.
a long time fighter. He's 35 years old. Tybura is 39 though. I mean, I know that you're a big guy when it comes to the age, so maybe that plays a factor as well. I think experience weighs out. Tybura has been tested by UFC experience for the majority of his fights now, or at least a large enough number. He's a staple of the heavyweight division at this point. Marcin Tybura. I don't see anybody coming in off the street, regardless of their experience level, and beating him in the UFC.
If I were an Ante Dalia fan and I were to sit here and tell you that yeah, he won $1 million, and in that time that he had those 3 fights, he was training and he was putting so much money into his health and his fitness regimen, and he's leveled up. I mean, would a level up from PFL heavyweight tournament winner mean much to you?
Uh, maybe. I mean, perhaps there's something to that a little bit, but I don't see that. I don't think that that's the case. I mean, he did win in April, so it's not like he's been inactive this year specifically.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think it sways me enough. Like I said, I think that Tybura has seen it all at this point when it comes to this level of competition. And even if he's not going to be a champion, he is certainly a winner. Enough. He is enough of a winner to be able to turn away a dude that he's already beaten.
I like this one here, and I think this is going to be a good parlay. This is going to be a good third leg here. Yeah, I'm really confident in what I'm seeing here. So shout out to the odds makers.
So you're going with the newcomer Dalia?
No, fuck, hell no. What the
Oh,
fuck?
okay, no, cool,
Fuck,
good.
no way. That dude is losing his fucking money quick. No.
All
So,
right, fair enough. Then there you go. Marcin Tybura is who I'm taking, and who Chase is taking as well.
yeah, no. Definitely not taking Dalia.
Yeah, I just don't. I mean, like based on all of the research that I did and all of what I just listed out here, none of it is screaming to me like this dude is coming in as a world ender.
He's going to be Buchecha. Like, that's
Yeah,
literally all it is.
perhaps. I mean, maybe a little bit, more MMA centric than that, but
You
the
think
same.
that, you would think that, but then you watch him and he's just a heavyweight that throws ones and twos, and you're like, what the fuck? Like, are you fucking this won you a tournament? Like, this won you $1 million being a fat blob that just throws punches? Like,
Yeah, but
you're
isn't Tybura that too though?
he at least will grapple. He knows how to grapple, and
True.
he will engage with it. And yeah, he gasses out too, and then he just starts slugging. But like, yo, at least we know he's game. Like,
Yeah.
if this Dalia dude, he might look pitiful. We don't know. So.
Yeah, that's definitely where my head's at too. Is they
That
yeah.
the takeaway after this fight, if Dalia looks like shit, realize that won him $1 million. Whatever performance that you see him put on, just know that won him $1 million.
Yeah.
Just whatever.
We talk about the drain of talent from PFL. This was only 2022, not that long ago.
It's not even like I don't know. It's the fact that it's $1 million. That means something to anybody who hears that. That is just an unfathomable amount of money. They gave this dude one of those for whatever performance that we are about to see on Saturday, and just know that that is the state the PFL is in. Whatever you see this guy have right here, just know that is worth money that they can't even afford. They go in debt because of this guy right here. And on Saturday, when you see the performance, I don't want to see anybody hitting the type shit. Like, this is just that you better just understand that this is the state of PFL. This guy right here, $1 million on his head, right there.
What are you saying about Kayla Harrison then?
Dude, I think we'll get into that at different times. But either
Sure,
way,
yeah, apples and oranges, I would say.
yes.
All right, well, moving on to the next fight here. Umar C versus Brenson Ribeiro. C is 11-1, 2-1 in the UFC, wins over Dawoon Jung and Tuco Tokos. His loss was to Alonzo Menefield. Ribeiro is 17-8, 2-3 in his last 5. His wins were over Caio Machado and Dair Nurgashai. Losses to Zhang Yang, Magomed Gaziazulov, and Azamat Mirzakhanov. What do you think?
This fight sucks. I think like this is two people that I don't think should have been matched up with each other. The matchmakers, they slipped up here because Omar Sy had the ability to make Alonzo Menefield like good in my eyes. Like he actually that fight, Alonzo Menafield passed the eye test, and that's the craziest thing to say because I've genuinely seen him lose fights before that. He lost to Julius Walker, in my opinion. Judges didn't think so, but Julius Walker looked like shit in this fucking next fight. And then you go back before that, he gets fucking knocked out by the most harmless guy at light heavyweight in Carlos Ulberg in the first 13 seconds of the fight, mind you. And that should just speak to you on how good Omar Sy really is. Like I don't think the ceiling is as high as I once thought it was. He was supposed to be this elite level grappler that once he got a hold of you, you can take it, you take him down, and he just wraps you up and chokes you out. But he literally has not shown that he wants to do that anymore. And I know it's only one fight with Menfield, and Menfield looked like he had great grappling defense. You know, he was able to stop a lot of the takedowns, but Omar Sy decided to strike way too fucking much. He didn't relentlessly grapple. He didn't relentlessly go wrestle. He stopped. He thought, I can't do it. I'm not going to be able to get it. Let's stand and strike. And then he started to lose. And if Omar Sy doesn't have the ability to push his game, like when it comes to his grappling and his wrestling, he is so good at that that all he has to do is like get to it. So if he's so quick to abandon it, he's just not at the level that he needs to be for him to be great. Like Hamza would never just abandon the fucking wrestling. Like, you know, whatever you want to say. Anybody
Yeah.
like Ilya, you know, he's never going to just not strike with somebody. So
Sure. No, yeah, no, I agree. C is definitely like the story of this fight, and like what we saw in the Menafield fight, like informs a lot of this. He looked like a completely different fighter in the Menafield fight, and because I mean, it stands out to both of us because I think both of us thought it was going to be a cakewalk for him, and that he was going to be talking about the next wave of French fighters. He was supposed to be one that was on the come up here. Yeah, it's like when you have such a dramatic shift from one line of thinking into the next, it sticks with you in a real way. And C is on the wrong side of that right now. But I mean, just to at least play devil's advocate here, Ribeiro,
Camaro sucks.
I mean, I'm this, he's Ribeiro is one of those dudes that is, almost an NPC territory to an extent to me a little bit. Like, it's just, yeah, he'll get a couple wins, he'll get some losses, and he just sort of exists. So could this be a return to form for C? Maybe he learned something from the Menafield fight. Perhaps. I mean, I think that there is some potential for that. He's only 11-1. I mean, he's 29 years old. He's in that sweet spot that there is still some room for improvement and for adjustments to the game, time over time, fight over fight. I would say Ribeiro is locked in. I mean, he even at 28 years old, which is kind of crazy to say. He's younger. He's the younger of the two guys, but I mean, to me, like, I don't think that I've ever seen anything out of him that leads me to believe that there is any kind of evolution going on with him. So that being said, if that's the case, if Ribeiro is kind of locked into what he's going to bring to the table in this fight, C's going to have to go back to being that guy that actually does the smothering. And I don't know if that's going to be the case.
I think C, and again, I have nothing to base this on. This is complete assumptions based on my own reality. C seems like the type of guy to watch that fight back with Alonzo Menafield and say, I got to improve my striking. And then he's been working this entire time to get his striking up, and it's still going to look like fucking shit because he's a wrestler at heart. But he doesn't look at it and say, I needed to just continue to push it on the gas with the wrestling. Like, I'm getting boxed up on the feet, and yeah, I'm not getting him with the double leg or the single leg, but yo, do you think every wrestler can only do a double and a single leg? You have to mix in a lot of the different things. Like judo is a very, very useful thing. A lot of judo trips are very useful when you get to the clinch situations, you get the waist lock. There's a lot of different ways to get your opponent down. You literally just showcase that you give up when your game plan doesn't work and you rely on a losing strategy. And if you watch that and you say, I need to get better at striking, you're done. You're getting cooked. Like you're literally just going to keep doing something that you're not, you don't have the motor skills built in for it your whole life. Like you're already locked into the wrestling game plan, and your body type, yeah, it lends to striking. Like you have such long arms, long limbs, and you can keep people at range, but like you're just not equipped for it. And you can work on it all you want, but it is never going to be your primary weapon when it comes to mixed martial arts. You are a wrestle grappler. Stop trying to strike, Brinson Ribeiro is probably not going to put you out, but like he probably will strike with you and he'll probably do better. So I don't know. Omar C really kind of pissed me off in his last one.
You can tell. And I mean, I'm with you though. I mean, like, especially for what we had seen before that and thinking that like he had the tools and the wherewithal to use them and not doing that. That's what really gets me. It's like, cause I'm hearing exactly what you're saying. That's basically exactly that. You have a skill set, you have it. You're trying to force a round peg in a square hole if you're going the striking route.
Yeah.
And, if he sticks with that, then that's going to be a problem here. I mean, granted, he is a huge favorite in this fight, so
For
obviously,
no reason. For
yeah.
no
So
fucking reason.
I mean, it's gonna be a big hit if Ribeiro can take the win. But I mean, Ribeiro by decision.
No, I think if Ribeiro wins, and I know I just said that he probably won't put him out, but if I think Ribeiro wins, I think he might knock him. I think a TKO is likely. Umar is just going to go in there and be way too confident and relaxed in his striking, and what he's not going to realize. And like I said, Umar's got great reach for striking. Like he's got super long arms. Like if you look at the numbers, 83-inch reach. But what you don't understand possibly is that Brinson Ribeiro is just 2 inches shorter in the reach. So Umar C is probably going to go in there and think, I can touch and nobody else can touch me. Ribeiro's going to catch him. So that's just my opinion.
All right, so you going Ribeiro on this one?
I'd love to go Ribeiro by KO. I'd love it. I'd love to. So
All right. I mean, I don't know if I can. I don't know if I can let my anger and disappointment with C dictate how I'm going to look at him forever. This is another one of those fights that to me would be like a turning point fight. If he comes out here and looks anywhere near as bad as he looked against Menefield, then I probably would be writing him off. I'm going to.
And if he looks good, what? Okay, he looked good against Brinson Ribeiro. Okay, cool. They
I
gave him
mean,
a matchup where he could barely pass by, kind of deal. So
I mean, there's the roster is always going to need a middle.
hey,
So
yeah,
I'm
yeah,
okay with that. I'm okay with it. I will be all right with that. At least in this instance, you know what I'm saying? I mean, like, what the future holds, who knows? But like, I at least want to see a return to form because if not, then I'm really going to be pissed. So I will put my faith in this person that I have very little faith in one last time. And this
yeah.
is the last shot that you have. So you better go out there and show me exactly why the hell they got you as a minus 450 if that's what they're thinking that you're going to do, because that would signal to me that you're going to walk through this guy. And if I don't see that, then I'm going to, then you're toast at that point.
It sucks that a lot of the fighters out here are a one and done. And I know that's the way we make it seem. It's not, after this one, we're done putting stock in you. I mean, yeah, we're not gonna expect a championship out of somebody at this point. After one or two more, if you just fuck up, it's like, okay, you're just not serious enough and you just don't have it, or whatever the case may be. But there is a genuine possibility Umar C has a great career after, if he loses this one or wins it, whatever the case may be, whatever the looks the worst in your opinion. Obviously the loss, stupid, but Umar C could have a great career after this. But he's just probably not going to be a champion if he loses to Brinson Ribeiro. It's just all that I'm saying. So
Fair. Yeah. I mean, I think it's a fair assessment. And really, it's coming from a good place, in my opinion, because it was off of what we were seeing earlier and what we thought he was capable of. And maybe what he's still capable of if he goes back to what he's actually good at. So that's what I'm hoping for this, is that I
yeah,
want to see a return to form.
yeah, I 100% agree. It would be nice. Because he was somebody that's like, when I first saw him, I was like, holy shit, like he could be Miktabek Orabai. Like he literally could just chase you down and grab you and trip you up when you run away and just get a hold of your neck and just pop your fucking shoulder, head off your shoulders. But he literally just refused to implement that type of his game plan. He just gave up on the grappling and just and settled with the lackluster striking that he's going to continue to have. I hope we don't see it again. I literally hope we don't. So
Yeah, exactly. And I very much hope we don't see it, because I'm going to go with Umar C on this one.
yeah,
And God, I really, after that last one, it's like painful to say that. You know what I mean?
yeah, 100%. I agree.
All right. So you going Ribeiro though?
I'm going Ribeiro.
All right. All right. I like it. All right. Another one coming up here. William Gomez versus Robert Ruchala. Gomez, 14-3, 4-1 in his last 5. His wins are over Joe Anderson Brito, Giannis Gamori, Francis Marshall, and Jarno Aarons. Split decision loss to Hyder Emil. Lots of split decisions for Gomez. 3 of his last 4, to be exact. Ruchala is 11-1. This is his UFC debut. 4-1 in his last 5, all of which were in the KSW promotion. He was the interim featherweight champion of that promotion. 3 wins by knockout, 1 loss by knockout in his last 4. Hasn't fought since 2024.
This is just William Gomez return to form. I mean, he's going to come out here and style on him for 3 rounds. I'm sure. I could see a finish from Gomi in this one too because he just got robbed by the judges. So he's going to have, and the way that I think about him, again, one more time, no information basis. I am making an assumption. He seems like the type of guy that he's gonna do what he does until it goes wrong, and then it's like, okay, I gotta prove, I gotta go get me a knockout because they're gonna screw me over. But then after he does that, he goes right back to what is normally gonna be the decisions. So I don't know. I would say he wants to get a finish in here, and I think it's likely against somebody who's just not known with a gray picture. We don't even know what this dude looks like. But will he? You tentatively, I would say decision is probably the more likely route. But
Well, William Gomez is a dude who I've never had much stock in. I really he's one that initially at least did not pass the eye test in the slightest. Then after I've seen him fight over fight, I have started to evolve my thinking slightly. I'm not like all in on the guy or anything like that, but I have at least come to acknowledge that the dude knows how to win a fight.
mhm.
He's skilled enough to navigate a fight effectively. The win over Joe Anderson Brito especially was one where I was like, okay, because Brito is a person who I actually like thought, okay, this could be, there's something there maybe. Like he was one that I was like, I had a little bit of an inkling that he might be, something on the come up in some way. So when I saw that Gomez could beat him, I was like, all right, maybe there's more to this guy than I'm giving him credit for. Of course, I cannot forget that he had that very odd situation with the weight cut. Perhaps that was a fluke. I mean, that's a weird, sort of odd
Weird
situation.
fluke, but okay.
Yeah, exactly. It's just a strange thing. It's to come in underweight and just like have have to get taken off a card because of it is just a very odd set of circumstances that you don't see every day. So it sticks out in your mind. Got to believe that all of that's behind him now. And having seen him since then look better, I will also go with Gomez, not knowing Ruchala aside from what I had mentioned.
Yeah, I'm gonna say William Gomi by knockout. I'm taking a lot of decision guys by knockout this week, so it's gonna be a rare sighting. You guys should clip it.
Yeah, yeah. And I mean, having all of those split decisions for Gomez, I mean, this would be a nice thing for him to actually get, a nice definitive win here, even if it is over a newcomer. But
Mhm.
yeah, so there's potential there. I'm good with that. I don't. It's hard. It's hard with this because like I don't want to oversell Gomez because I don't believe that he is worth overselling personally.
Mhm.
But under these circumstances, I do think it's the right choice to make.
100%. Yeah, I think Gomi's gonna get this one done.
All right. I agree as well. Let's move it to the main card here. Aforementioned guy from other promotion coming in way above his pay grade, I would have said. This is Patricio Pitbull versus Losine Kaita. Pitbull, 37-8, 1-1 in the UFC. Win over Dan Ige. His loss was to Yair Rodriguez. He, of course, is the former Bellator featherweight champion. Kaita is 16-1. This is his UFC debut. He is 4-1 in his last 5, all of which were in KSW as well. He is the former 2-time lightweight champion and featherweight champion of KSW. So he is a 2-time 2-division champion. So three championships total for him. 3 wins by knockout, 1 loss by knockout in his last 4.
This one's gonna be interesting because we are all Pitbull, haters around here, and I'm not the biggest fan, but plus 170 is a little enticing. Even though we know he's not the best, but we just don't know anything about Kita. So tentatively, I want to take him, but Do I love it? No, because Pitbull might have the possibility to take this fight to decision, and then if he does what he did against Dan Ige, I mean, it won him the fight. So I don't really know what else to say. I would like to say Keto by decision, but you know what? We're gonna go with the split. Maybe this is my split right here. The Dan Ige split. It was calling me, but I think this one might be it. Keto by split.
I like it. This is one where, I had made the rule basically based on Pitbull.
Hmm.
That was like the last straw for me when it came to these guys coming in from other promotions. But Kaida here, I mean, I think that the resume is pretty stacked, and if it's two guys who are coming in from outside of the promotion, then I don't think that the rule applies. So I'm good with that call on this one. I think that that Kaida is a dude who I've been seeing a lot of buzz online about. And, you talk about how I'm not like huge on Twitter, right? I mean, I kind of go on there occasionally. I post about the show and stuff. I don't spend a large amount of time reading it. So if it got through to me from Twitter that this guy is somebody to keep an eye on, then that there had to have been a good amount of conversation going on about the dude.
Yeah.
That all being said, also, he does share the same last name as the lead character from a little show called The Cage that we've been talking about a whole bunch. So, all of those things being said, I'm good with it, man. I think, Kaida by split decision sounds very fine to me.
I mean, listen, I'm not trying to be the one to say that it's, written in stars, but the show was made in France. This dude would have been on the come up at that time still. We obviously would have to do a little more research, but if anybody out there wants to confirm or deny that the show was loosely in relation to this dude's last name somehow, who knows?
I think that it probably tracks. I mean, Belgium, France, very close, they speak French in Belgium.
Oh yeah, I
So
guess he is Belgium, so I guess it maybe doesn't track as much as maybe I'm leading it to believe, but funny enough.
Well, but KSW was also prominently featured in The Cage, if you recall.
True.
So, yeah, I mean, I think that this is all lining up. I think also that a big portion of me is still very underwhelmed by Pitbull. And yeah, I look, I give the guy as much credit as I believe that he deserves. What I have seen out of Pitbull in the UFC is very lackluster.
Hmm.
I thought that the loss to Dan Ige was more on Dan Ige's side than it was on Pitbull's side winning the fight. And I mean, that's just how I assessed the action of that fight. It was not a great fight, to be perfectly honest. I thought that Dan Ige could have done a lot more on his side to swing it in times when Pitbull was lacking. The Yair Rodriguez fight, you saw a whole lot of nothing out of Pitbull in that fight too. I just think that Pitbull is past the time that he would have been as effective as he was when he was on top in Bellator. Bellator competition doesn't stack up. Kaida, younger dude, 27 years old, a lot of championships under his belt in another organization. You know, stack for stack, if you put all of those things on a scale, I think that Kaida's outweighing Pitbull based on that assessment.
He's just a young version of Pitbull.
I
I
agree.
mean,
That's a fine. That is a perfectly fine assessment of it. You know what I mean? Like this is a dude who went out there and cut his teeth elsewhere, and it got a whole lot of accolades on his record because of that. Coming in, going to make his name over a dude whose time has passed. I'm 100% okay with that. And then if he can do that, go and make a bigger name for yourself in the premier organization thereafter.
it's kind of funny that the UFC adopted Pitbull and now they're using him as like a passing of the torch kind of guy. But it's like, he's 1-1 in the UFC, but whatever.
Yeah, I mean, if that is what it is, I mean, like if Pitbull comes out here and looks completely different, which I do not anticipate, but if he does, then look, he is a guy who then you could say all of that resume that he has should have been what we were looking at. But
Looks different, or he does what he does best, better than you've ever seen.
right,
Okay.
yeah, either one of those, honestly. Like if he comes out like looking like a completely different fighter, then I'll be like, where was that guy before? But it would certainly be impressive. Or if he does, what we're more expecting him to do. If he goes out there and jumps Gilly and actually gets it, okay, all things have changed now in my assessment there, or at least maybe then it goes to show that Kaida was the one that is coming in from another organization and wasn't ready for it. But
Mhm.
I don't see any of that happening. I think that Kaida is going to be the one to take this and maybe next up.
Yeah, I kind of agree with you. I'm taking Kaida.
Yeah. All right. We'll see what happens there. Starting out our main card. Moving on up the card now, of course, was where it was going to be. Fares Ziam is versus Kue Fernandez. Ziam is no longer on the card, and I've already forgotten the name of the gentleman who is
Harry
replacing him.
Hatwick,
Harry Hardwick, yes, is
some random guy.
yeah, I believe that he is a Cage Warriors guy.
No,
I
no, no.
want
They actually found him outside. He was on one of the scaffoldings. He was doing the painting,
yeah, where they pulled a window washer off of the
literally.
building. So I mean, when it comes to that, I mean, you got to go with Kue Fernandez, right? I mean, even that hurts my heart to say because Fernandez is just not great. I mean, I can go through the stats if you want me to, but
I could care less about this guy. No, actually, go for it for the audience.
sure. All right. Well, Kue Fernandez is 10-2, 2-1 in the UFC. His wins are over Guram Kurtseladze and Muhammad Yahya. His losses to Mark DeCasey. God, losing to Mark DeCasey. Loss was a split decision to DeCasey. Even worse, he KO'd Yahya and got a unanimous decision win over Guram Kurtseladze.
Yeah, with that being said, I could care less about this dude. If Zaim would have been the one to stay in the matchup, that would have been cool. But the fact that it's this Koi Fernandez dude, even though Zaim should not have even been fighting this dude, like Zaim has been, he just came off fighting two named guys that we know that are like in the promotion that are decent. And the fact he goes up against some like literal scrub is kind of crazy. And then he's the one to pull out. So now we get stuck with the literal scrub and we don't get the fun performance that we're supposed to see because we're supposed to see Zaim come out here and smoke him. Like that's what they're supposed to set up in front of the French crowd. But now we get a random Brazilian versus another guy. So
Yeah, I mean, it literally took the words right out of my mouth. This was the fight that was for the French fans. I mean, this
yeah,
was going to be a a hometown guy going out there getting a spectacular win kind of deal. I mean, even though Zayam, he has in the past been kind of decision merchanty. I have in the notes, three unanimous decision wins, split decision in there as well. Of course, he got that beautiful knee knockout of Matt Frivola, so that kind of changes the dynamics a little bit. But decision guy mostly. But against Kue Fernandez, he should have been able to pull off a really spectacular performance. But now dynamics are completely changed. I don't even know why they're really trying to keep Kue Fernandez on this card, honestly, in my
scrap
opinion.
it. Just
Yeah,
scrap it.
absolutely. We got 14 fights on this thing. Come on, you can definitely lose one.
Yeah,
And this would, of all of them to lose, if you can't have a somewhat known name for the French audience, then yeah, this is absolutely one that can be altogether scrapped. So
like at least with Kyle Prepelic, he was a Canadian. So when he filled in to fight BSD back on the Canadian card, it at least made sense. Like, oh, we found a Canadian to fill in, but finding a fill in for a Brazilian, it's like just don't even care.
yeah. So I mean, all based on all of what we're saying, Kue Fernandez has UFC experience. I don't think that this Hardwick fellow is I mean, I don't know anything about him, to be perfectly honest. I haven't done any research on it. The news of the cancellation broke just before the podcast today, so not enough time to make a full on assessment. If there was ever a guy to come in and get a name off of real quick, it would be Kue Fernandez, though. So, maybe this dude comes in and pulls a Steve Urseg, short notice, gets a nice knockout, and now he's a name in the organization. I'd love to see it over Kue Fernandez. Don't anticipate it. Got to go with Fernandez, sad to say.
100%. Actually, no, I'm going with Harry. Sorry.
You're going with Harry?
I'm going to take Harry.
You're going to take Harry? You're doing it for the show.
I'm doing it for the fans.
All right. Well, again,
I want to take this TBA guy. He's minus 350 against Koi, but either way.
Yeah. Who's this mythical TBA? New mythical fighter unlocked.
He's not a minus 1500, so he's at least bettable.
There you go. All right. Well, either way, you heard it out there, people. You take the information and do with it what you want. But I mean, Fernandez is probably your safer bet.
100%.
All right, moving on. Oh
God, why is this on this? What the fuck? This is cursed as shit.
Well, I'll introduce it, and you see if you feel the same way after I give you all of the details here. This is Modestas Bukauskas versus Paul Craig. Bukauskas, 18-6, 4-1 in his last 5. His wins are over Iwan Kutelaba, Rafael Sequeira, Marcin Prachnio, and Zach Pauga. His losses to Vitor Petrino. Grab bag of fight conclusions for Bukauskas. Split decision win over Kutalaba, excuse me. Knockout win over Sakara. Sub win over Procnio. Unanimous decision win over Pauga. Knockout loss to Petrino. Craig is 17, 9-1, 1-3-1 in his last 5. His win is over Andre Muniz, losses to Brendan Allen, Caio Bahayo, and Bo Nickel. No contest with Hidalgo Bellado in his acting debut. Also a grab bag of conclusions with Paul Craig. Unanimous decision loss to Nickel, knockout loss to Ohio, sub loss to Allen, knockout win over Muniz. So I said all of that, Chase. Come on, do you still feel the same way about this fight?
Yeah, this fight really sucks, and it's crazy because Paul Craig is one of those guys that they're saving for entertaining matchups. Like this is the guy, like he's the GM3 kind of guy. Like you save him for the people that you have to get a good performance out of. Modestus,
Like Alpha Bellado.
well, true. He was actually, whatever
He
you
was,
want to say.
that was supposed to be his big comeback. Was that
Exactly. So, whatever the case may be, Modestus is some dude who literally had a first round knockout against Sakara and then made Ibo Aslan look boring. He took him to his first decision ever. Isn't that nuts? And now you give him Paul Craig. I just don't fucking get it. This fight's going to be horrible. What you remember when Paul Craig went against Bo Nickel? That's what this fight's going to be. They're going to do nothing. They're going to be so boring. I just wait for it. So
I mean, yeah. I'm trying to think of like what could. I mean, maybe Paul Craig goes back to what he's actually good at and tries to submit Bukauskas. Maybe. I mean, that's what this is the thing about Paul Craig. This is why he really bothers me. It's like, I want to be a fan. Look, I mean, Jewish guy there, maybe there's some religious affinity there for myself. I would Scottish, not a lot of Scottish fighters. There are things about Paul Craig that like, you could say is like, oh, that would be cool if that guy was better. But for some reason, Paul Craig has a skill set that he's dead set on fighting without. He really does not want to use what he's good at, and it shows on the record. I mean, his record is so candy cane, so spotty. I mean, like, and even worse. I mean, into losing streak territory. Aside from the no contest, he's coming off of a bunch of losses. Like what we were saying in the Bellado fight was that he really needs a win. And if he wants to get a win here, he should probably do what he's actually somewhat decent at and try to submit Modestus Bukauskas.
The problem with that game plan is Paul Craig is not somebody who's elite at getting anybody down. No, he has to get his ass whooped before he ends up on the bottom and then throws up, a submission. So that's going to be the hardest part, is actually getting Modestus to punch Paul Craig in the face hard enough to get him to fall to the ground to then have to use his grappling. Modestus is not going to show any type of grit. Like, the fact that he went in against Ebo and was terribly fucking terrified of the power. Like, I'm not thinking that he's going to do the same thing against Paul Craig, but he already shows that, like, he just ain't in it to fucking win it. Like, you go in and get a first round knockout, and then the next one you go straight to decision with a dude who's never been to decision. You're just not it. Like, and Paul Craig is not the dude who's probably going to beat you, but this is going to be terribly boring. This is going to be just, why am I wasting my time with that type of matchup? Is all I'm thinking.
Could be. I want to believe in Paul Craig. I want to believe that there's something there. I'm going to take Paul Craig in this fight. It certainly could be exactly as you've described it to be. I'm hoping that Paul Craig fight. I just hope that he actually wants to engage and take control of this fight. That would be what I think is it could be his method here, is going in there and being a commanding presence, ring generalship. Octagon generalship, they talk about, as a criteria in the judging, as the very last criteria of the judging. But it's certainly something that could make a difference here for Paul Craig. I'm hoping that that's the case. I hope that this saves his ass from getting cut, because he's, after the Bellado situation, with Bellado pulling off his Oscar-worthy performance there, it did not move the needle one way or another for Paul Craig. You know what I mean? That guy, it just keeps him in the exact same position he was in before that fight started. So I want to believe that Paul Craig still has something to offer us here. Go out and actually make this an exciting fight, make it a fight that you look like a person that people want to get behind. Go out and submit this man. That is what I'm hoping for. Paul Craig by sub is what I want to happen. Paul Craig by decision is acceptable. I that's it. That's all that I got for you.
Yeah, I hear you. I'm hoping Paul Craig gets this win, but it's probably not going to happen. It'll be boring win for Modestus by decision.
Yeah, that's what you think is going to be the case. You think it's just going to be an inactive, boring fight, and Modestus ends up taking it.
Yes. Yep.
All right. I mean,
I hope to be wrong.
yeah, that's just exactly, and really for me, taking Paul Craig, it's wishful thinking is all that it is.
Well,
So
I hope Paul Craig is just at the point where people see him as just feeble on the feet. That Modestus looks at him like he did Sakaria, and he's just going to walk in and just bomb him. But Paul Craig very likely to just leave his face right in the way of punches. I don't think that Bukowskis is going to bring that same energy. These dudes are going to go at it in the face off. I'm sure Paul Craig's going to do his face paint and yell in his face. Bukowskis is going to look like he's a big game, but when he gets in the cage, dude, I know what this dude's about, and it is not fucking baller status. So that's all I'm saying.
yeah, that's an unfortunate truth of what we have seen over the course of the last couple of fights. And, it's hard to see someone like Paul Craig have such a dramatic drop off because he was somebody that a lot of people had a lot of faith in for a while there. Again,
Has a win over the current champ, buddy.
there you go. How about that? Just go out there and do it, Paul Craig. Come on, make it happen, dude. Like, change the narrative. We talk about narratives often. This is your opportunity to change the narrative at least slightly. You got a long way to go before it's like a hard and fast narrative shift. But this could be at least the first step towards something better, if there's anything left. Because if not, you're probably getting cut, and that's hard to say.
100%. I agree with that one.
All right. Well, quick shout out to the chat. Curtis Clark earlier checked in. Shout out to you, brother. And Shiesty is asking about Sean O'Malley's puppet. I don't know what that's a reference to, but I got to believe that, yes, he is good.
Cool.
All right, moving on here. Balaji Oki versus Mason Jones. Balaji Oki is 10-2, 2-1 in the UFC after a knockout win on the Contender Series. Wins are over Timmy Kwamba and Michael Aswell. His loss is to Chris Duncan. Split decision win over Kwamba, unanimous decision win over Aswell, got subbed by Chris Duncan. Mason Jones is 16-2, second stint in the UFC. Much like Reese McKee, as you pointed out. His win in this current stint is over Jeremy Stevens. 4 wins in Cage Warriors before that. His last stint, he went 1-2-1 with 1 win over David Onama, ages kind of well. Losses to Mike Davis and Ludovic Klein. No contest with someone named Alan Patrick. Mason Jones looked pretty good in that Jeremy Stevens fight.
I don't think I'm not necessarily worried about how good these guys looked. I just think the aggression that they showed in their last performances, I think, is going to be good because Balaji Oki is a dude who he's going for the finish and he's going to get finished or he's going to get the finish. Mason Jones is somebody who will stand and bang with Jeremy Stevens and he will throw a punch back. I just think it's take this fight to not go to decision. I think that's a very safe bet. These dudes are going to go in and try to take each other's heads off. And if they don't, at least the grappling should be it should look dangerous enough that when they get tired from doing that the person's going to definitely get finished after, when the round gets to 3, probably, stuff like that.
Could be. Balaji Oki did look really good against Aswell. Definitely kind of styling on him a little bit. Aswell, tough customer, took a lot of damage in that fight. That being said, you're right. I mean, the aggression level on both sides is going to be a lot different than that fight. Jones going up against Jeremy Stevens, I think, is a better barometer than what we've seen out of Oki and his wins. Take the Chris Duncan win off though I wouldn't consider that. Jump Gilly, you can chalk it up to being a fluke after what we've seen in the Kwamba and Aswell fights when it comes to Oki. So, I definitely don't think Mason Jones is coming out and pulling off a maneuver like that. So without that in the equation, I do think that Jones is going to offer a lot more intensity than what Oki has been able to, or what he has encountered already. And with that coming at him, I think that he's going to be on the back foot a lot more than he was in the Aswell fight. I think that Jones his grappling is going to be way, way better than
Mhm.
Oki's is. And like you had said, if it gets to that point and then they tire out, I think that Mason Jones is a guy who, he's more seasoned. I think he's got a better pedigree when it comes to this level of competition, and having already gone through the rigors of going, being in the organization, going out of the organization, having to fight his way back into it again. He's got a little bit more of a point to prove. The stuff that we saw against Jeremy Stevens, I think, is going to speak much more loudly to what we can expect out of him in this fight. And I think that he's going to be able to overcome the power of Oki. You got to remember, I mean, Oki, even with some really sharp striking, I mean, he's very technically sound in his striking, but pretty much just a boxer.
Yeah.
And I think that Mason Jones is a lot more well-rounded than that. So,
Yeah, but he's
yeah.
also a guy who's been in and out of the UFC. Like we know he's not necessarily somebody that they're wanting to just keep around, keep on retainer kind of deal. So Oki might be just good enough of competition that he can wipe out somebody who's a second thought kind of deal for the UFC.
I understand that assessment, but I mean, going back and doing the research on it, like I almost don't even really like understand why they cut him, because I mean, it was 1-2-1. Yeah, I mean, that's not a great record in and of itself, but it wasn't like, I mean, we've seen plenty of fighters who have stuck around through something like that, and the no contest again kind of put that off of the table. In my opinion, it was an eye poke that ended up being, the guy said he couldn't continue. Okay, fine. Whatever. I don't put too much stock into that. 1 and 2 with the losses to Davis and to Klein, like I'm okay with that. Like, I mean, like like it doesn't signal to me like, yeah, this guy never should have been in here. He, this is a dude who wasn't cut out for this. Whatever the case may be, ends up out of the promotion. 4 wins in Cage Warriors thereafter to prove himself once again. I think he comes in with a bit of a point to prove, like, maybe he's trying to overcome this assessment like that line of thinking.
Yeah, no, I definitely agree with you. He's a little more seasoned than Oki. I mean, the competition that he's faced is worthy. It's UFC level comp, and Oki has not been here as long. Mason Jones is making a second trip around the sun. So, will he show that he's beyond his years? We will soon find out.
He also, I remember the commentary going into the Stevens fight talking about how seriously he wanted to adjust and like get better, like make the improvements. Like there might have been some like life stuff going on outside of the organization, outside of fighting that were affecting things. I don't remember that specifically, but I do remember them making a big point about how he wanted to make all of the necessary changes to evolve himself to be the fighter that he was hoping to be. So after seeing him beat Jeremy Stevens, who's, I mean, as far as MMA goes, yes, he is, who the fuck is that guy? He will always be that, but the dude is he's a tough motherfucker. I mean, like the dude, champion in bare knuckle, household name as far as MMA goes, as if, he's been around as long as I have, at least. A win over Jeremy Stevens does speak pretty highly to me. All of those things said, I'm riding with Mason Jones here. I think that Borralho still has a ways to go, and I definitely think that if he starts wrestling him, which we did see. Remember, if you remember the third round of that Jeremy Stevens fight, it was all Mason Jones wrestling him. It was all control.
Mm.
He even kind of admitted, he was like, yeah, I would have liked to have done a little bit more in that third round, but I had to get myself to the win. If he was able to do that against Jeremy Stevens, who's been around as long as he has, I think he's going to be able to do that against Borralho.
I'm gonna go ahead and take Oki in this one.
All right. I mean, you can go ahead and do that. I think that the only other reason why, and this is the last thing I'll say about this, the only other reason why I'm not going with Oki is that because you can say, oh, the striking is going to be there. He might be able to lay hands on him to the point where he puts him out. Jones took some heavy shots from Jeremy Stevens, a lot of them actually. I mean, like that, those first 2 rounds were banger rounds. It was a great fight.
Mm-hmm.
Took a lot of heavy damage from him. Didn't get put out from those. Borralho put a beating on Michael Aswell, and you can say Michael Aswell just has the greatest chin of them all. He's got a granite chin. Maybe that's the truth, but what I got out of that for me personally was that Oki might just not have the power in his hands. Now, prove me wrong. I'm okay with that. Wins over. I mean,
He's
it
gonna
was
he's gonna take Mason's head off. I'm taking that. That's what I'm taking.
split decision win over Timmy Kwamba, brother.
Yeah, we'll see. We'll see.
All right, so yeah, I mean, go ahead and take Oki on that one. I am riding with my guy Mason Jones. I think I want to believe that Mason Jones in this second stint is going to be a dude putting on for Wales. He's going to be out there being the next Welsh guy. You know, we don't have our former Welsh king anymore. His name is escaping me right now, and it's
We
making
have
me.
Oban.
Oh yeah, no, God, please, Oban Elliott. All right, fine, but no, Jack Shore. Jack Shore is who I was thinking of. Yeah, we don't have Jack Shore anymore. Oban Elliott just got brutally annihilated. This is going to be, put your faith in Mason Jones, is what I'm saying.
Oh yeah.
All right. Co-main event of this thing is Benoit Saint Denis versus Mauricio Hufi. Saint Denis is 14-3, 3-2 in his last 5. His wins are over Thiago Moises, Matt Frivola, and Kyle Prepelic, as you had mentioned. His losses are to Renato Moicano and Dustin Poirier. Knockout wins over Thiago Moises and Matt Frivola. Knockout losses to Moicano and to Poirier. Sub-win over Prepelic. Mauricio Hufi is 12-1. 3-0 in the UFC after a knockout win on the Contender Series. His wins are over Jamie Malarkey, James Yontop, and King Green. KOs of Malarkey and Green, a unanimous decision win over Yontop.
This one, I think. I mean, there's just the same thing is going to be said for the main event. So I'll just start here. Is like the fighting nerds are not unbeatable. Everybody seems to believe that every time they get matched up, they are just automatically going to win. And the reason I think that's just an incorrect assessment is because not everybody is going to go through the UFC and be unbeatable. It just doesn't happen. You know, there's only one person that has, and he had to have a very hand-picked, selected route to get there. Mauricio Hufi is going straight to the top, and he's facing the top of the competition. Benoit Saint Denis is not somebody that I necessarily would say is a sure win, but he is somebody that knows how to take damage and fight through it. And if Mauricio don't put him out, then he's going to keep coming. And Benoit is waiting for this. He needs a big opportunity in France, and if he makes it against Hufi, I mean, he can have himself in another title contention picture. I really don't think Benoit is my favorite, but I do think he adds a stylistic matchup to this that he might get Hoofy down, and we might just see how. Hoofy might not even be bad at grappling on his back or in general, but he might just get held down and be negated to do anything, just like DDP. Like, he just wasn't able to do anything. Like, he wasn't able to score in the fight. I don't think that's necessarily going to happen, but it's possible. We don't know what Hoofy is going to bring when it comes to grappling. We just haven't had to see it yet because he's so creative and explosive on the feet. Benoit loves to put his face in punches, but he does know how to weather the storm. Like, he can get punched and then continue to go. So that is a positive.
Yes. What I will say about Hoofy, what I've been saying about him for a while, I think it's pretty much the exact same notes that I had before the Green fight, is I've always thought that of the nerds, he was the one that I thought was going to get taken out first. Now, it turned out to be Carlos Prates, of course, but Hoofy's style is one that I believe at a certain level is understandable to fighters who are paying attention. He goes for the flashy stuff, and it looks really cool when he gets it off, and it works. There are going to be fighters who are going to be tougher than that. There are going to be fighters who are going to be wise to that. Will it be Benoit Saint Denis? Hard to say, only because Benoit Saint Denis is one of those like run face first into the fire kind of guys and let the chips fall as they may. That might be dangerous against Hoofy. Like dangerous for him, dangerous for Benoit Saint Denis, because it's almost like the Matador situation. It's like Benoit goes in, full of steam, and Hoofy waves the curtain, and then just gets a crazy shot off and is able to get the stylistic elements that he wants out of the fight. I don't know if Benoit is going to conduct himself that way, if he's going to maybe be a little bit more strategic, knowing that Hoofy has the style that he has. This is kind of one of those fights that I feel like if Hoofy wins it, it almost sets up the next guy to do exactly what I'm saying here. But I thought that King Green might have had the opportunity to have the same situation. You know what I mean? So it's like somebody has to actually go with what I'm saying at some point where it's like, dude, if you know that this guy is going to be doing the karate stance and you know that he's going to be doing leg sweeps and you know that he's going to be doing spinning wheel kicks, like, somebody actually has to catch wise and then adjust to that. Will it be Benoit Saint Denis? I don't know. I just it's a tough call on that one because we've seen him run face first into the flames with Dustin Poirier. He should have won the Poirier fight. I stand by that.
Well, he
I
had
know.
staff.
Oh, he did have staff. You are correct about that. That is true, and we can always fall back on that as being the biggest culprit in that one. But I mean, my thing is that like that fight was the exact type of fight that like you knew what Dustin Poirier brings to the table. You knew the methodology that could have negated that. I really think that like it was a navigational error there. And Otto Moicano looked terrible in his last fight. Like you think that person like Benoit's caliber shouldn't have won that one either. I mean, like he has shown himself to have holes in his game based on his navigation of these fights. That's what I'm trying to get at here. Is it's like there are fights that he could have won if he had just utilized his strengths a little bit better. Hoofy is the exact type of fighter that he should be able to win if you just know what you're getting into in this fight. Will he actually do that, though, is the big question here. And I don't know if the answer is yes.
I agree. Yeah, I mean BSD, he's a marauder. I mean, he's got to get punched before he actually activates. But I do agree with Shiesty. BSD is different opponent than Hoofy has ever seen. And when this fight originally was booked, I also was agreeing that I could totally see a TKO ground and pound from BSD to Hoofy. And it's going to be unfortunate to see if that's the case because, when you have great fighters that are so good and they do fun things like get spinning kick knockouts, you just can't envision them being on the ground with their head getting dribbled off the mat. But that's what happens in this game, man. I mean, what you think is not going to happen is unfortunately the more likely scenario in this sport. So I could see BSD getting away with a finish on this.
I want to believe it's that could be the case here, and I mean, because I've been saying it, I'm waiting for the person that's going to check this style, and it's not because I don't like it. Yeah, I mean, look, he's got a knockout of the year potentially this year. I mean, like the knockout of King Green is the front runner as far as our list goes. What?
I would also like to say that we just saw Aljo and Brian Ortega get a 5-round fight as a co-main. This definitely should be 5 rounds, but whatever.
True.
So,
Yeah. Yeah. Still odd why that, who knows why that was what it was, but digress on that one. Either way, back to my point is that I've been saying for quite some time that Hoofy has a solvable puzzle in his style. Is Benoit Saint Denis going to go out there and put the pieces together? Sure, could happen. I want to believe that he is the type of guy that can definitely muscle through some of these heavier shots and things like that. I mean, if he going to be able to withstand the spinning wheel kick if he ends up taking one across the face? Maybe. Yeah, you know what I mean. He's a tough customer. I've seen him take a lot of damage in fights before. It's just a matter of if he actually is going to be strategic versus trying to go tough for tough. I think that even if he did go tough for tough, there's potential for him to win, but do it in a way that makes sense. Because there are times that you have had the opportunity to be more strategic and tough at the same time, and you didn't do that, and then you lost.
yeah, I agree with that one. Now BSD, I think there's a chance, but he definitely he has to navigate it correctly.
Yeah, I agree. So I want to say Benoit Saint Denis so bad. You know what I mean? Like I really because I'm telling because I look fighting nerds aside, put the fighting nerds element out of the picture when it comes to Hoofy. Just if I didn't know what gym he was from and I just saw his style and what he brings to the table, I would say there are going to be people who are going to be able to take care of that.
Mm-hmm.
I want to believe that Benoit Saint Denis is that guy. For that reason, I will take him. But I'm going to be really not surprised when it doesn't go his way. And I'm going to say, come back on Monday and be like, he has no one to blame but himself.
Yeah. Now this one is it's a tough call, but I mean I think it's the same thing that I'll say about this one. I'll say about the main event, and it just goes down to the nerds really. So I think that's the last thing I got to say about these ones.
So you going with Benoit?
I'm going to go with Benoit Saint Denis by a ground and pound TKO.
I'm with it. I will also go with Benoit Saint Denis here, but it's by such a razor thin margin. I really like almost feel like like still sort of siding with Hoofy. This is one of those ones that I'm going to have multiple parlays going. You know what I mean? Like I'm going to have one. I'll probably have the same parlay twice with them on both, and
Hmm.
just
Yeah,
see what happens.
I hear you on that one. Yeah, the podcast looks a little sus right now because neither of us picked Roofy, but that's okay.
I know. All right, fine. I'll take him.
Good, good. Yeah, that makes us look a little better. Now we look like somebody's at least in the right of mind to say, yeah, Mauricio Hoofy, he's a fighting nerd. He's never lost in the UFC. All he does
I
is
mean,
do creative stuff, whatever you want to say.
and yeah, I do ride with the fighting nerds a lot more than you do. So I mean, for that reason, I can go with I can fall back on that. Sure,
There
fine.
you go.
Hoofy takes it, but I mean, it's you've heard the assessment from me multiple times on this show at this point. Like I
Hmm.
do, like of the fighting nerds, I've always said that Hoofy was the one I thought was going to be the first. I really thought he was going to be the one that was going to get taken out and dropped off the map quicker because you just like it's a played style. It's a style that you've seen before. I mean, when people say, "Oh, he reminds me of Connor," it's
Hmm.
like, yeah, well, right, but we've seen that now. I mean, like you can't replicate the era of Connor. You can replicate the style, but you can't replicate when it happened. We
Yeah,
are past that.
it's a good
So,
point. I actually like that.
so yeah. So, all right, I will take Mauricio Hoofy for the sake of the show.
Good
But
deal.
you've heard you all heard. You know what's going on here.
Hell yeah.
All right, take it to the main event. This is Nasruddin Imavov versus Caio Bahayo, the other nerd on the card. Nasruddin Imavov is 16-4. He is 4-0-1 in his last 5. His wins are over Israel Adesanya, Brendan Allen, Jared Cannonier, and Roman Dolidze. No contest was with Chris Curtis. Knockout wins over Adesanya and Cannonier, sorta. Unanimous decision win over Allen. Majority decision win over Dolidze. Caio Bahayo is 17-1, 5-0 in his last 5. His wins are over Jared Cannonier, Paul Craig, Abus Magomedov, Mikhail Olashechuk, and Mahmoud Muradov. Unanimous decision wins over Cannonier, Magomedov, Muradov, sub win over Olashechuk, knockout of Paul Craig.
This one, I think this is a little more interesting when it comes to the styles because these two are definitely going to stand with each other, and I think Imavov is my pick to be able to get the strikes off. He does have fast hands. They call him the sniper, but he definitely should be a machine gun because this dude has quick hands and he's accurate and he pounces. And Kaio, very well rounded. I will agree, but like I just don't think the two things that initiate where Kaio can show you how well rounded he is, the striking and the wrestling, I don't think he does either of those better than Imavov. I think Imavov stuffs all the takedown attempts, or most of them. He may get him down once or twice. The first one, he'll probably get down, and Imavov will get up, just like a feeler, like, oh, okay, well, that's all that you have kind of deal. And then he's going to stuff it and do a bunch of sprawls after that. But and Imavov is really good at takedowns. So he does a lot of waist locks, and then he'll do like trips and stuff. So I assume he'll be the one to initiate a successful takedown later on. But I mean, for the most part, he's just going to work him on the feet. And I hate to say that because I do like Kaio. He's the one that I think I like the most out of all the nerds, just because he's the leader. He's Leonardo. But I do think this is a bad matchup for him. Even though Imavov has lost 4 different times, he's definitely faced the competition that is worthy as of right now, where they're supposed to be in the title picture. Beating Izzy, finishing Izzy is nuts. I mean, good for him. But split decision or not split decision, but going to decision with Brendan Allen, I believe it was. I mean, not the greatest look, but Brendan Allen is middle of the road. He's better than good, not as good as great kind of deal. Same thing with Roman Dolidze. Kyle, and then they both faced Jared and finished him. Or actually, I don't even think Kyle finished Jared, but should have been a finish.
Yeah, that was the fact that they did not stop that fight was insane. And of course, Jared's kind of the weird anomaly for both of them because Jared, that was the early stoppage in the Imavov fight
Yeah.
with Jared.
Yeah, so it's kind of interesting with that one. I don't really think too much about it, but I think, Shiesty again kind of cooking. I don't know why I'm with France today, but Imavov with a body kick might be pretty good. I don't know if it's going to be the kick that actually TKOs him, but it's definitely might set up the sequence.
Yeah, I agree. Nasser Imavov is somebody who I had counted out earlier on. I kind of thought he would have been one of those dudes who hovered around the top 5, but never really like cracked the code.
Mhm.
He has changed my mind. He has forced me to think otherwise, and I don't necessarily feel like he's always the most dynamic fighter in every sequence that I see him in. But what I do know is that he goes out there and finds the win.
Mhm.
He's certainly a guy who is not afraid of getting his hands on you. He's not afraid of standing in front of you and trading if that's what you want to do. He's really good in the clinch. He's really good in tie. He'll tie clinch you and throw those knees up the middle. Like I mean, like he has a wide array of attacks that he uses interchangeably and very effectively. I would say that skill for skill, as far as well-roundedness goes, he's one of the more well-rounded middleweights that there are at this point. And it's like I say all of that because I had counted him out. Like I mean, like I didn't think that all of those metrics were adding up, but time over time he has proven that like he'll walk through the fire with you if you want to go that route. He'll take you out early if you're not trying to hang with him. Kaio is he's a tough customer. He's a good, solid fighter. He's one of those dudes that like you said, he's like the Leonardo of the pack. He's
Mhm.
he's also like in the video game when you're on the character select, like the guy that's like the baseline character where all the stats are even across the board. That's
Nice.
what I think of with Kaio. Like he's good in all departments, but he doesn't excel in any one to the point where it's like that's the thing that gets him to the victory. That's the one aspect that's going to be the barometer, the measuring stick that's going to take him to the next level over someone like Imavov. I think that's where it lands for me, is that Imavov has shown that there's a lot of weapons in the arsenal, and Kaio is good all over the place, but not great in any one area to the point where it's like that pushes him over the top.
Yeah, I agree with you. That's why I think, Imavov coming in at a dog here. I mean, gosh, they really are fading the French, and I think it's a big mistake. I think France is going to go ahead and take over Brazil on this one.
Yeah, I mean, dog money on that is that's barking loud, brother. I'll take that all day long. So, I mean, I really don't even know where that's coming from, honestly. I mean, as I had said,
Because he's a
with
fighting nerd, dude. They
I
can't
mean,
lose.
fair. I mean, if you want to talk cult of personality, perhaps. But if I'm looking at the stat sheet here, I'm seeing unanimous wins over many unanimous decision win over Mahmoud Muradov.
Hmm.
Should that not have been a finish? You know what I'm
Yeah,
saying? I mean,
true.
now a sub win over Olashaychuk, that was pre-nerds Olashaychuk. You know what I'm saying? I mean, so it's like,
Oh wait, I didn't even. Yeah, they came to train together after that. That's
uh,
funny. I didn't even notice that.
well, you got to know where they got to know where the quality's at, But
Yeah.
that all being said, I mean, it's like again, the lone knockout that I'm seeing here, at least in the last 5 over Paul Craig. We've talked about Paul Craig,
Should have had him a knockout over Jared. So be real.
Yeah,
So
fair. I
two.
mean, he did beat the brakes off of Jared. That is true. That is true. But I just don't think that Imavov is going to allow himself to get into a position where he's getting beat on like that. I think by round 4, if Imavov looks anything like Jared looked like in the 5th round, there's all the hat will be eaten at that point.
Brendan Allen's striking didn't look horrible against Imavov. So that should give you, you know, I don't know. What can you
I mean,
say about that?
I say,
So
are you convincing yourself with that?
no, I just think Kyle should have some success on the feet. I just think it'll just be gritty. Kyle doesn't keep his hands near his face very often. He kind of has that, like, he's on the outside with the karate stance a little bit, and I think Imavov's just gonna pop him up. I don't know. Every time he comes in, Imavov's just gonna pop him 3 times before he dips out.
What would you say to Kaio going straight takedowns, trying to make it full on ground game, and then really testing Imavov off on the ground in a way that maybe he hasn't been tested before?
I don't think Imavov goes to the ground unless he wants to. I think he's going to be the one that initiates a trip that gets him down. There's Kaio's not going to get. He's not going to get Imavov down, in my opinion. The first one, like I said, I always believe the first takedown is always the easiest to get. You take them down the first time, they don't really know what to expect, but once they're wise to it, then you're not, you know, they're going to get up every single time.
Yeah.
So
And I mean, I don't even really think that Kaio has shown that, like, even if it's like you want to go straight BJJ on it, that he would be able to be the one to like pull the rabbit out of the hat on that.
he did beat Brendan Allen in Karate Combat pit submissions. So there
That
you
is
go.
true. I didn't remember that. Yeah, but you are correct about that one, aren't you? Um, yeah, I mean, it doesn't. It's not calling out to me as a big decider there. I think Imavov has shown time over time that, like, you know, you think what you want to think about the earlier perception of, you know, the earlier eye test that you might have had of him. Because I mean, I really I remember having the impression that he was more of a boring fighter, but like seeing some of the stuff that we've seen out of him in the upper echelons, I think that he's kind of broken all of those early perceptions. And you know, you can deny the flow of the river, but the river rages regardless. You know.
Yeah. No, I think we're cooking. Imavov, he real ballers know that this dude is pretty damn good. So I really like the odds that we have here going with Imavov going into the weekend at plus 110.
Yeah, I like it too. So we got to be in lockstep on that one. So Imavov for the win here at plus money. You could do a lot worse. Yeah, so I mean, I guess that brings us to the end of things here. That is UFC Fight Night, Imavov versus Borralho. That takes place this Saturday, and of course, you can watch along with either myself or with Chase here. I will be at youtube.com/@Yama Show, and Chase, I know you can tell them where they can find you.
They will obviously be able to find me doing streams every time the UFC is having some events on youtube.com/@CP Smalls. And that'll be on Saturday, and we're always going to be having a good time.
That's right. So, you know, hang out with either of us. Let us know what you thought of the picks here. You know, we'll find out together if we were right or wrong. I am also on Instagram and on Twitter at Yama Show, and now on Facebook at Yama Show 1. Search Yelling About Mixed Martial Arts on Facebook. Like the page. You'll see all of the feed on Facebook as well. So keep up with us. We will be live tomorrow for the Contender Series. Get another stream watch alongs for that. Hopefully some more content coming out during the week as well. If not, we will see you on Saturday. But until then, everybody have a great rest of your night, great rest of your week. And as always, fight on.
Game.